The NFC East showed out this weekend. Diesel, Josh Allen. Well, he was almost perfect. Lamar's going to be Lamar. Coaches being hired and fired in the NFL. Nothing buzzing more right now than the National Football League. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He is Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. So good to have you with us on this Monday afternoon. It's an overreaction Monday. Tolos. I had someone ask me this morning, Diesel, early this morning, about 9 o'clock, what is a Tolo? And I had to explain to him. Well, if you listen to the show, if you turn it on, leave it on, you're a Tolo. That's what we ask our listeners to do.
We love our dedicated Tolos.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great Tolos. And they say that only like 2% of your listening audience actually interacts with the show. So we know there are a lot of Tolos out there that do not interact, but we're going to get you a little bit better on that. A loaded show today. We talk Clemson football. Their DC search, Diesel, looks to be coming to an end, according to Pete Thamel of ESPN, who first reported it this morning. We'll get into that. Texas, Ohio State reaction, so much more. Diesel will even get to my Cowboys. Their news, they're always in the news. They're in the news today. 3:45, we'll get to that as well. But let's start with what was the biggest disappointment in my mind, in my opinion, this weekend in the National Football League. There were a lot of fantastic games in Wild Card Weekend. I absolutely love the NFL playoffs, but Justin Herbert must not love the NFL playoffs. Diesel, 32-12. The Houston Texans just absolutely ramrod Madcraft's Chargers.
Ouch. Just an ugly, ugly performance. I thought the Chargers had a chance to make a deep run in these playoffs,
too,
if not reach the Super Bowl. And I thought, man, wouldn't that be a phenomenal story if Jim Harbaugh comes back to the NFL and takes his team to the Super Bowl or takes them to the semifinals in his first year? Wouldn't that be a great story? And then, man, did that not just take the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge straight to the dome because it was ugly. They didn't show up. They were making mistakes constantly, and then they got blown out by a second-year quarterback.
Second-year quarterback who, Diesel, the Houston Texans, they won 10 games, but were inconsistent. They were inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Herbert, I mean, you and I talk about this a lot. It starts with your quarterback play, right? Justin Herbert on Saturday afternoon. Listen to this. 14 of 32, 242 yards, one touchdown, and how many interceptions? Not one, not two, not three, 4 interceptions.
I'm mad at Justin Herbert. You know what? Now I understand why all those people send out messages to these quarterbacks and to these players and say, give me my money back, because I lost $150 on Justin Herbert and that atrocious performance. I mean, I had 7 total picks in my underdog fantasy, and I got 5 of them wrong, all because the Chargers sucked. And because, the Texans were great.
The Texans were really good. I was in that same boat as you were, mad and asking for my money back, but it was in the Packers-Eagles game last night because they didn't score enough points. But it all does. Diesel. It all really does start with the quarterback. Justin Herbert was atrocious. He was sacked 4 times, a loss of 31 yards. He had a outstanding QBR of 13.1.
That's like Bryce Young territory last year.
Yeah, that's an insult to Bryce.
Yeah, exactly.
13.1. CJ Stroud, though, on the other hand, to your point about how awesome he was, 22 of 33, 282. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Listen, CJ Stroud did what Justin Herbert could not do and was able to lead his team to put successful drives together where Houston could move the ball. If you look comparison to comparison, quarterback to quarterback, you don't just see CJ Stroud's pop off the page, his numbers rather, but Diesel, he was able to get his offense going. Houston, a little slow in the first quarter, 10 points in the second quarter, 10 points in the third, and 12 in the fourth, and ultimately they win 32-12. I just could not be more disappointed, to your point about Harbaugh. I thought a Harbaugh-led team would be more prepared than this.
How many people do you think reached out to, texted, even if it's his buddies, right? Even if it's his rich billionaire buddies that don't care if Dave Tepper is mad at him. How many people reached out and said, wait, isn't that CJ? That's the guy you could have had? That's the guy that you could have drafted?
I hope not.
I do. Make him feel stupid. I mean, we're sitting here hoping that Bryce Young can improve from 4 wins as a starter this year in the next year. And this guy's taking this dummy who couldn't do well on a test is taking his team to the playoffs and winning wild card games.
You know, ultimately, Diesel, I was so impressed with DeMeco Ryans. Like, I think that when the Houston Texans hired DeMeco Ryans away from the 49ers as their DC, I think they made the best hire in the NFL in a
Look
very
at the way
long
San
time.
Francisco's falling apart.
Well, they're not as good defensively. They're not as good.
Yeah.
They're not. And Houston's doing this. They're peaking. Now, I know Houston has a tough one. We'll get to the next week's NFL games this weekend a little bit later in the show, if not tomorrow. But I loved what Joe Mixon did. He was absolutely phenomenal. 25 carries, 106 yards, 1 touchdown. C.J. Stroud made a difference with his legs as well. Nico Collins was phenomenal. Over 100 yards, 122 to be exact. Nico Collins averaged 17.4 yards per catch with the touchdown. His longest was a 41-yarder. So a tough day to be a Chargers fan. But we, you know what? We know they have the quarterback. They have their head coach. It'll be interesting to see how they rebound next year. A few other games to get to as well. Want to remind you before we get there, though, there are several ways for you to get in touch with the show. You can text and call the show, the same number, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Diesel, you can also message in on the stream. I believe Steven was asking about Clemson's hire potentially with Tom Allen. Is that right?
He was, and I was letting him know that we are going to be having on Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider at 4:20.
That's right.
To talk about this in full. So
that's right.
Yeah, we'll get into it deeper in the show. I promise you that.
Steven said he's been sick lately. Hope you feel better,
Yeah.
Steven. We hadn't heard from you in a while. Hope you're doing well, man.
And just know, in case you missed that interview, you can always go back and catch it again on the podcast. We do that. We post those up on the Odyssey app and at thefanupstate.com. You can always use the rewind function so you can jump in after that interview segment is played, obviously, and jump right back to a specific time when it starts, which it's going to be around 4:20 this afternoon.
And those, by the way, if you're not familiar with the Odyssey app, AUDACY, when Diesel's talking about jumping back, there's chapters. Mm-hmm. So we label the chapters of what we're talking about. So if you haven't checked that out yet, do so because it's a great feature. Like Diesel said, in case you missed something. Texter from the 203 says, yes, seriously, I had Chargers money line on like 5 different bets, just had to win the game and boom, everything else hit. Yeah, I believe the Chargers debacle probably made a lot of sports gamblers upset over the weekend.
I expected this team to go off. So I had so many different props in this game set and ready to go in the higher lower game on the Underdog app, and it just red X after red X after red X of getting it wrong.
The next game, Diesel, that happened on Saturday, not really a big surprise, as you and I talked about this one with Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Baltimore winning 28-14 over the Steelers. I don't think there were a lot of people who are in the sports world who were really surprised by that. Derrick Henry went off. 26 carries, 186. Diesel again, 186.
That's monster.
2 touchdowns.
That's like what a
Video
Division I powerhouse running back does to a G5 team.
Listen to this. Baltimore as a team ran for 299 yards. 1 yard away from 300 as a team. They ran all over Pittsburgh.
They couldn't get that last one?
They couldn't get it. Couldn't get it. Russell Wilson was average, 20 of 29, 270, 2 touchdowns. He didn't turn the ball over. They had no rushing attack. That's the problem. Najee Harris, 17 yards. Baltimore shut down the Pittsburgh run game. And I sent you something, Diesel. There's a stat, and I think we're going to save it for later in the week, right? When it comes to Mike Tomlin. Remember that stat I sent you yesterday with Mike Tomlin and playoff games on the how does this guy still have a job segment?
Oh, yeah.
We want to save that for maybe tomorrow. There's a statistic when it comes to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers that will blow your mind. We're saving it or you want to do it now?
No, I mean,
it's up to you.
Save it.
Save it. Let's save it.
Let's save it.
Let's save it because it's a wild stat.
Yeah.
I mean, a wild stat when it comes to because Mike Tomlin is known as a really good coach in the National Football League. So we'll bring that stat up tomorrow because it is mind-boggling. But
are Mike Tomlin
really
and James Franklin roughly the same coach? Like Tomlin doesn't have losing seasons. James Franklin has been very good at Penn State. He's just good enough to get you into the playoffs and get you close to where you want to be, but not good enough to take you over the hump.
No, he
doesn't win the games. Doesn't win it when it really matters.
And he hadn't in a while. So we'll see if the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, I don't know. That's a great question if they're reunited in 2025. It wouldn't surprise me if they're not. Obviously, a lot of coaching news to get to if you just tuned in. We'll get to Mike McCarthy at 3:45. Bills Broncos, Diesel, this was a game that was really close throughout the majority of the game, and then the Bills pulled away late. So it seemed as if it were a blowout, and the score would indicate that it was. Bo Nix, Sean Payton, just not quite there yet when you have Josh Allen, who's you talked about getting over the hump. Yeah. I think he's ready to get over the hump.
Is that really a shocker, though? I mean, Sean Payton is great. He's been good, multiple stops so far, but Bo Nix is still new to this, right? And with the Bills, they've got Sean McDermott, they've got Josh Allen, they've got a lot of great pieces baked into that roster to be great and get past teams like the Broncos. They don't mess around with teams like the Broncos. Now, who knows what happens when they face a legitimate, like veteran, built-up kind of football team. And hey, I got a lot of promise and hope for the Broncos in the future. I think Bo Nix is going to be really good next year, the year after. It's great as a rookie to be able to take your team to the playoffs. And then, you know what? You say, this was great what we achieved. Now let's build on that and let's go win a game in the playoffs and advance.
No, I think so. I think Bo Nix, the future's bright. And anytime you have Sean Payton as your beacon of light, if you will, who's guiding you, Diesel, I think he's going to be just okay.
There's a reason why there was a sweepstakes for him. Everybody wanted. Everybody was throwing as much money at Sean Payton as they could.
Yeah, they're going to be okay. They just weren't there yet. I was really impressed with Josh Allen. I said it in the lead. He was literally almost perfect, Diesel. 20 of 26, 272, 2 touchdowns, a rating of 135.4. James Cook, though, on the ground. How much better of a quarterback are you? Ask Lamar, ask Josh Allen, when you can hand it off to a guy who has 23 carries, 120, and averages 5.2 a carry. I mean, it's automatic.
You look at the stat lines of that Ravens-Steelers game and then this one, and it flips, and you see just how impressive it is for any team to put up to put up 300 yards on the ground. You don't see that in the NFL anymore. These teams are so good at stopping the run that it takes just a ridiculous performance to have anywhere close to that.
And I think that's why I appreciate it so much, like what Baltimore and Buffalo did running the football. I love it. Old school, play good defense, run the freaking rock, and let your defense, make stops, and they did. So
I'd much rather see a game where running backs are being brought down in the backfield, brought down on the line, brought down just as they get past the line, than seeing a lot of incomplete passes. I hate seeing incomplete passes in the NFL.
And it kind of just ruins like the monotony. It
ruins the flow of the game.
It
slows the game down. Now we got PIs on every third play.
Speaking of passing to the opposite team, Diesel, Jordan Love last night, Eagles, Packers. I thought this game might be a little bit better. I did pick Philadelphia to win. They won 22-10. Packers were pretty much without their top 3 receivers, and then they lost like 3 other guys during the course of the game. Josh Jacobs was asked to be the number 1 guy. Jaden Reed, who has been the number 1 guy, he had 46 yards, and then Josh Jacobs was second right behind him as a running back. So they were so banged up, limped into the postseason. Jordan Love, Diesel, was 20 of 33, 212, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So just a horrific night for Jordan Love. I kind of feel the same way, though, about the Packers as I do the Broncos. They've got a good coach in LaFleur, got a really good quarterback in Jordan Love. I think the biggest mistake that the Packers made was letting their star running back go to Minnesota over the offseason. They just have not had the same production on the ground. Jalen Hurts was really good. Saquon Barkley, though, 119 yards, Jalen Hurts threw for 2 touchdowns yesterday. Philadelphia scored 10 in the first quarter. At times, Philadelphia's offense was a little stagnant, but the Eagles did what it took to win, and the Eagles advance, and that makes 2 teams out of the NFC East.
Well, to be fair to Jordan Love, bad performances like that happen in the playoffs. Even great players have bad performances like that. So doesn't need to hang his head super, super low, man. I just went back and searched what are the worst performances by quarterbacks in the playoffs in the modern era. In 1987, Joe Montana and his 49ers got beat 36-24.
Wow.
They got absolutely beat down in that game. Joe Montana was actually benched in that game. Went 12 for 26 for 109 yards and threw a pick 6 in the second quarter. They sat Joe Montana in the playoffs. So it happens. Donovan McNabb has had terrible games in the playoffs. A lot of great Jake Delhomme. I mean, he was good at times, but at times he was also really, really bad for the Carolina Panthers. Carson Palmer had bad playoff games. Cordell Stewart had bad playoff games. So Jordan Love, it happens.
What would you have said if I had told you going into last weekend that Commanders-Bucks would be the absolute best game of the weekend? Would that have surprised you much?
Yeah, it would have. I mean, as high as we are on Baker Mayfield, and we like Baker, we like him being a gunslinger, we like him being a little bit of a trash talker.
Sure.
Would have thought that I don't remember what we picked on Friday, but I thought the Bucks would probably win this game close. But I'm impressed by what Jaden Daniels did.
They've got their guy. Jaden, think about this. The turnaround that Washington's had, Diesel, in one season, new ownership, new GM, new coach, new quarterback. Dan Quinn has done a terrific job. I wish he was the coach of my Cowboys instead of whoever they'll hire now. And instead, we let him walk last year, and now he goes to Washington and says, all right, I'll show y'all 12-5, 23-20 win in the postseason. He's phenomenal.
If the Steelers fired Mike Tomlin, would you want him in Dallas?
No.
But he gets you in the playoffs.
He gets you there. He never have a losing season. That's what he hangs his hat on. He doesn't have a losing season. The only thing that concerns me with Washington,
Google me, I win.
That's right. They had no running game last night. Jaden Daniels was their leading rusher. That's the only thing that does concern me for them as they get deeper and deeper into the postseason. I mean, Austin Eckler, 27 yards. Brian Robinson Jr., 16 yards. Just absolutely no running game at all for Washington, despite them winning the game 23-20. But, hey, you give them credit. They won the game. They found a way to win. Jaden Daniels, 268, 2 touchdowns, 24 of 35, no picks. He was only sacked 1 time. I think that offensive line's gotten a lot better. So it'll be really interesting to see how they fare in the next round. And then, Diesel, real quick before we run to a break tonight, 8 p.m., Monday Night Football Wild Card Edition. I love this. Sign me up. Playoff football on a Monday night. Vikings, Rams. Yeah. Minnesota's favored by 2.5, despite the bad performance by them last week with Sam Darnold. Not early lean, but right now you're lean as we're 5-6 hours away from this one getting going. Vikings, Rams.
I got Rams winning this game by, let's call it 10. I might feel a little bit better in this game, a little more solid in my 10-point prediction if this game was being played in LA, obviously with those wildfires and stuff, it being moved to Arizona. Right. Yeah. It may neutralize a little bit of that home field advantage, may bring it down to a touchdown game.
Just not confident in Sam Darnold. I mean, I know that, I don't know, Diesel, if that's where you base your if you put your eggs in your basket for that reason. I don't know. I think the jury's out. Sam Darnold had an incredible regular season, 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. However, he did show us last week that, guess what, he can do. He can still be Sam Darnold that we all used to know, right? He still can lay an egg. So I guess that's my hesitation.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be close tonight. I don't know, though.
And you got a Super Bowl winner in Matt Stafford.
Right,
you got a guy who's been here before several times, not going to let the moment get away from him. And, maybe, who knows, maybe with the Vikings quarterback there that, taking this long to get into this position in your career, he may overreach just a little bit.
He might
think, I'll never get a chance to get back here.
I think it's truly a coin flip game tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams came out and put it on them, just because, like you talked about, Stafford's been there, right? This is nothing new for him. But then again, the Vikings have won 14 games, Diesel, so they know how to win. I think this could be a really good football game tonight.
When we come back, Cole, let's dive into that semifinal game from the college football playoff from Friday night, Texas, Ohio State. What does this say about the SEC? Whoo, it's a rough spot for them right now. Let's see how it plays out. That's coming up next on the Fan Up States. Can we put out a wellness check on Tolo Madcraft, who is a hardcore LA Chargers fan? Talked a lot of bleep last week about the Chargers and how they were going to make a run, how they were going to win the Super. You wrote it down, right? And then all of a sudden, Monday's show comes around, and this dude never misses the show. He is a true diehard Tolo until his team gets absolutely waxed by the Houston Texans, and then he's not here.
I don't know where he is, man. I'm worried. I'm really worried.
Does anybody know where he is?
We need to send our best thoughts, toward him. I hope he's okay.
So Cole, the semifinal game on Friday night. We haven't had a chance to talk about it yet since it happened late on a Friday, and it was actually until that scoop and score late, we had ourselves a good football game on our hands, and for some reason, so many of the national pundits are looking, I think, at the final score, and they're saying, "Woe is the SEC. They're done for. Things are falling apart over there." Let's be real. This was a 7-point game, and Texas was inside the 5 on the goal line, potentially going to tie the football game late, and then a big play was made.
Sure.
And now all of a sudden you go from a 7-point game to a 14-point game, and that's all she wrote. It's over, Cole. This was a really good football game, and Texas deserves credit for playing well in that game. Was it a perfect game on either side? No, it wasn't. I thought Will Howard looked really good. There was a couple times, Cole, where he had so much touch on his passes, and he was just laying it out there perfectly. He couldn't deliver the ball any better if he had walked over there and just handed it to his wide receivers. But, man, what a phenomenal performance by Will Howard, even though Ohio State was not as prolific offensively as they have been the last couple of weeks. A great football game on Friday night.
I can think of one pass in the first half, and it was a long ball to Jeremiah Smith that Will Howard overthrew. Mm-hmm. But other than that,
the one right down there on the goal line?
I think it was close to the goal line. Yeah, Will Howard in the first half and in the entirety of the game, he was putting that ball right where it's supposed to be. He was throwing dots all night. I was super impressed with Will Howard. I thought he outplayed Quinn Ewers. Yeah, they both had an interception, and yeah, you could say Quinn had 2 touchdowns and Will only had 1. But when you think about flow of the game, Diesel, and allowing your team to be in position to win, I just was so impressed with Will Howard. Their numbers, Howard and Quinn Ewers, were very similar on Friday night. Now, we can get into the game all we want and go as deep as you'd like, but there's no way we can say anything to start the segment other than Steve Sarkisian deserved to lose that game with that second and goal play call that I knew as soon as it happened.
I thought it was first and goal.
No, it was second and goal. Yeah, I wanted to log on Twitter as soon as it happened because I knew it was just Twitter was going to blow up. Second and goal from the 1.
Shades of Marshawn Lynch.
Why
are you trying to get cute?
1 yard line. And I already have a problem in football when it's at the 1 and you're in the shotgun. Diesel, you're automatically putting yourself 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
So second and goal from the 1, Ewers takes the snap. And it's not a lateral pitch exactly beside him. It's a deeper pitch. And the running back now is, 7-8 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And he gets tackled, I think, near the 9-yard line. And from that point, obviously, 1 or 2 plays, a strip sack or strip fumble, that play call to me was mind-boggling. In that situation, here's where I have a problem with it. At other points of the season, Diesel, even Friday night, in those short yard situations, what does Steve Sarkisian do? He gets creative. He puts in Arch Manning. Arch Manning just that night had a short yardage situation where he converted. I hated the play call to be in the gun, lateral it back 3 or 4 more yards, and like you said, that was
but you only hate that play call if it gets blown up, right?
I don't hate that. I don't like it at all. I don't like the idea.
What if he walks in for a touchdown?
Well, there's no pinch. The problem is if you're going to run that play call, somehow, some way, you have to have the defensive line pinch to allow the guy to get outside far enough. And there was no tight. Sometimes a tight end will come in motion or even come under center, and the defensive line, you'll see him pinch. I didn't like it at all. I don't even like it even if it does work. I mean, I know it could work, and that's probably why Steve Sark probably thought it would work. I'm sure he wouldn't call something that he didn't think would work. Yeah. But I just, from the one, man, bully your way through there.
Well, I mean, at the same time, Cole, do you line up and try to run it across the goal line 3 times? Do you take 3 shots at running essentially the same play, the quarterback draw or a delay handoff to the running back? I mean, look, in that situation, it's kind of a cat and mouse game. It always is. They expect you to try to run it down the middle with a quarterback draw.
They do.
So you bounce it outside with a pitch. And, sometimes you'll walk right into the end zone. Now, Ohio State, they played it perfectly. They sniffed it out. They blew that play up and lost 8 yards. And, then all of a sudden you're in a really tough spot. And 3 plays later, Jack Sawyer, Quinn Ewers' freshman roommate, is strip sacking him, scooping and scoring. It was funny. He said he did say that they had a little moment after the game talking about that, joking with each other that Jack Sawyer was the one who got that strip sack interception or strip sack and scoop and score. But man, what a little poetic moment there for Jack Sawyer and for Quinn Ewers. I thought it was a great football game. People are going to bring it down to that. They're going to bring it down to that play the whole time. And yes, it was second and goal from the 1 yard line. Ohio State was as gettable as they were going to get because despite how well Will Howard was playing, he was having passes batted down. He wasn't playing perfect football in that game. And Ohio State was gettable that night. I mean, let's be real. They only put up 21 offensive points.
Here's that audio after the game and what Quinn Ewers, Diesel, this is great, what Quinn Ewers said to Jack Sawyer after his strip sack touchdown.
Walking off and said, "Screw you," and started laughing. That's my boy. Obviously, we're roommates when he was here, and got a lot of respect for him and the rest of the Texas team.
So I know that audio was low, but he said, "Screw you" after the touchdown. You got to love the fun there, right? All in fun. And again, going back, the last thing I'll say about that play call, I'm with you. I think my philosophy, you brought up on the goal line, what do you do 4 straight times? My philosophy's always been, if I have the ball at the 1 or anywhere closer, half-yard line, and I have 4 chances to get that ball in the end zone with my running back and my offensive line, and I don't get it in 4 tries, I live with it. I'm okay.
Sure.
We don't deserve to win.
And you got him pinned at the 1 yard line, depending on how much time is left.
I'm going to give it to my running back, and we're going to get a yard, a half a yard, whatever it is. JD says, I don't really think it was that bad of a play call by Sark. It was more about the Ohio State defense. I just couldn't agree. I could not disagree more, JD. Respectfully, I couldn't disagree more. I think it was a horrible, horrible play call. But to your point, they were gettable. Mm-hmm. Ohio State was. And I don't think it's fair to say, oh, well, the SEC didn't show up. I mean, you said it a minute ago. This game was tight all the way to the end. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a fair synopsis right now.
It's like the context. We talked about blowouts and the context in which they happen is a game that was essentially out of hand for the majority of the game. And you pull all the starters and all of a sudden the other team puts up 2 touchdowns on you and makes it a 14-point game. That's still a blowout, even though it came back to just 14 points and vice versa. If it's a tight football game like that, you have a late strip sack or pick 6 or whatever it may be, and you go down and score, well, that's not a blowout. It was a much tighter game. But Cole, here's something that is going to blow your mind. Mm-hmm. This is the first time since 2004 and 2005 that in back-to-back seasons there will not be an SEC team playing in the national championship game.
Say that one more time.
First time since 2004 and 2005 that in back-to-back seasons no SEC team will play for the national championship game. All credit goes to, I believe it was Matt Berry I heard talking about this. Urban Meyer had just gotten to Florida. Les Miles had just arrived at LSU. Nick Saban was not at Alabama yet. Let that sink in for a minute.
That is nuts.
That's the context in which the SEC was not in the national championship game for 2 straight seasons.
That is so nuts, man. I mean, that you talk about dominance. That's what that was. But you know what? Overall, I was so impressed with Ryan Day, the team. Like, you talk about having a good team, being able to win a national championship. Thinking back the last time they did, I believe it was 14 with Zeke, his sophomore year, I believe. They had a team. Like, they were so talented. It's not all about Will Howard, Diesel. It's not all about it's not all about Jeremiah Smith, who was pretty much shut down on Friday night. You have
Well, that
guys
shows how
like,
much respect Texas was given him.
Yeah, and Jack Sawyer. I mean, you talk about a guy who is a playmaker. They just had I think this Ohio State team, we talk about them being the most expensive roster. You look at their team and the guys that make up this team in the defense. I don't think there's enough people talking about the Ohio State defense because Will Howard's great. There's so many guys on that offense, including Jeremiah Smith, that make that team go.
Yeah.
But their defense was dominant this year. And again, on Friday night, they were impressive.
Well, Travion Henderson and Quinshot Judkins, both phenomenal running backs for Ohio State. Carnell Tate had 87 yards in that game. I mean, you got to go down the list all the way to seventh place, seventh highest leading receiver for Ohio State was their star, Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate, 87 yards. Trayvon Henderson, 75 yards. Emeka Egbuka, 51 yards. I mean, they were throwing the ball, spreading it all over the place in that game. But, Cole, what's really interesting, and this is something that MIA Mad Craft had brought up last week, I think, saying that essentially calling into question the legitimacy of the national champion if we're not, quote unquote, putting the 12 best teams into the college football playoff. If we're building a playoff bracket so that we include conference champions, so that we spread this love out to this game as far as we can across this country, is this an illegitimate national championship? The question is, do you think that having to win 4 games potentially to win the national championship game, 3 or 4, depending on where you get seated, do you think that makes you a more legitimate national champion than simply winning 2 in the 4-team era?
I do.
Me too.
I do.
Yeah, it's way harder.
Math. It's math. Let's look at percentages. If you gamble on 2 games or 4, the percentages are way higher for you to hit on 2. I don't know why people can't grab. And that's easy math there.
Look, it's hard for any coach to get his team up for 4 straight games, regardless of who the opponents are. I mean, you could be playing bottom half of your conference and you could lay an egg. You may still win the football game, but you may lay an egg by your own standards. In this case, Cole, you have to be up potentially 4 straight weeks against the best teams in the country. I think that makes this national champion way more legitimate than having such a small sample size in the 4-team era.
Michael in Simpsonville does not agree with me on Will Howard. He said Will Howard was not good on Friday. Not sure what game Cole was watching. Well, Michael, listen, number 1, I love you. Number 2, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, that first drive, I saw Will Howard make some of the best throws I've seen quarterbacks make all season long. Like I said, he missed Jeremiah Smith on a deep ball. But you talk about precision passing, putting the ball exactly where it's supposed to go. I can think back to a 1st and 10 play with 10 minutes to go in the first quarter, Michael, and it was like triple coverage. Texas brings a blitz from the right side. Will Howard has protection from the running back, and there's literally a Texas defender left, right, and below the receiver. And Will Howard, it almost gets intercepted because of how tight the ball was. Will Howard puts it on a dot. Was he flashy? Did he have the best numbers in the world? No. But if you don't think Will Howard was good, man, I don't know what to say about it.
Well, that's why he deserves a lot of credit, not forcing it down to Jeremiah Smith. I mean, he knew that Jeremiah was covered up, so he spread that ball around, which in theory should open Jeremiah Smith back up as the game goes along. It didn't play out that way. However, being able to spread that ball around, I mean, he was getting the ball out into the flat, short yardage, 5-6 yards in the air, and then his receivers did a great job picking up extra yards after that. It was a true team effort, and that's what happens when you have one of the most talented rosters ever constructed or ever paid for in college football. You have such a plethora of weapons that if your elite star isn't playing well or is so covered up that you can't get it to him, you have so many other ways to pick up yards and score.
And Michael, look, is Will Howard the best quarterback in college football? No, but I'm telling you, man, I thought he was good Friday night. It was a 3rd and 6 right after that play with like 8:45 to go, a 3rd down, and he gets like a 15-yard completion to number 2, And again, it was like triple coverage. It was a tight pass. What do we talk about in the NFL? What do you always hear? You've got to make the big throws on third down. Very next play, 1st and 10, he goes down and throws another dot for a first down, and I think they go down and score on that drive. So I don't know. I know his numbers weren't sexy or flashy, but I thought Will Howard was really, really impressive.
Texter says, you have to root for Notre Dame. So the national championship lost at home to Northern Illinois. How legitimate is that? Well, how does losing one game early in the season negate what's happened after that and negate the fact that they've run roughshod over the playoff?
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, I'll give you my thoughts quickly on Mike McCarthy being out as the Cowboys coach. Also want to get into Clemson's defensive coordinator. I don't want to say hire because it's not official yet, but they're narrowing down of the search, if you will. If you're in the dark there, we'll fill you in next. Texter says, for all those Notre Dame haters and those who think Notre Dame needs to join a conference and take $20 million all to themselves, to quote Jack Sawyer, screw you. Well, Texter, they do need to join a conference, but we'll save that for a rainy day. Diesel, Mike McCarthy out as the Cowboys coach. Breaking news today. He was 49-35 as head coach of the Cowboys, 3 12-win seasons in a row. Obviously, we all know what it's like to be the coach when your boss is Jerry Jones. You're set up for failure. However, McCarthy is the 13th winningest coach of all time in the history of the National Football League. So not the worst coach in the world. Obviously, Jerry is going to do Jerry. I think it had more to do with McCarthy in this situation. I think
if
from
I'm
what I
Mike
heard
McCarthy,
this morning, it was
I
more
want
about
out.
money.
I want out.
Yeah, I think he did.
I'm Mike. I mean, there's I wouldn't go so far as to call Dallas a toxic situation, but I do think it's a no-win situation in the sense that you're saddled with a quarterback who's aging, who's okay, but he's aging and he's always out. He's always hurt. And you've got an owner who won't let you make moves, who has to be the smartest man in the room, who has to have
toxic.
Final decision at the end of the day.
I think it's toxic. I think it's okay to say it is. Just again, it ultimately, like I was listening to, one of our sister Odyssey stations, 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, and I love those guys, but ultimately it doesn't matter who they hire. Like everybody gets excited because McCarthy's gone. Woo, yeah, let's throw a party and get a new coach. It doesn't matter. Like it until Jerry croaks, nothing's going to change. He's not going to have any say so. He's going to be a babysitter. It's all it is. So, we'll see who they hire. Obviously, that'll be big news until they make a decision. But Diesel, also big news today that a ESPN guy broke this morning. Pete Thamel, who is in the know when it comes to college football, as we all know. Pete Thamel broke this morning that Clemson is working toward a deal to hire Penn State defensive coordinator Tom Allen as the school's new defensive coordinator. Again, sources told this to Pete Thamel this morning. Last year was his first year, Diesel, at Penn State. In his first season, he had Penn State's defense ranked 7th in total defense. Not bad. He spent time as the head coach at Indiana before that. He was the DC there. Very good resume. I think this would be, if it becomes official, I think this would be a very good hire for Dabo.
Yeah, this is, bordering on home run territory. This is, you're getting a previous head coach on your staff, which is always good. You notice all these big programs are stocking up former head coaches, whether they ended up being elite. Well, if they were elite somewhere, they wouldn't be assistant coaches somewhere else. But you bring a wealth of knowledge, and you also understand that you can delegate more responsibility elsewhere because you've got somebody who knows how to run a program. Well, right? And now his only responsibility is to run a defense.
It is. I'm glad you brought that up about experience, because I think Dabo set the program back a few years, Diesel, earlier in his, a few years ago when he hired some inexperienced guys. Brandon Streeter upgraded to a guy who had experience in Garrett Riley. Thomas Austin, offensive line, upgraded to a guy at Matt Luke who had a ton of experience. Lemansky Hall upgraded to Chris Rumpf. And now Wes Goodwin, who didn't have the experience, potentially upgrading to Tom Allen. And that only leaves C.J. Spiller, Tyler Grisham, and Kyle Richardson and Mickey Kahn. Really, that's all that's left on the staff that doesn't have that experience. I think it's a fantastic hire, to your point. I think he does, at this point in his career, want to surround himself with more and more of that experience. And look, when in your first season, your defense at Penn State 7th in the country, I think that's impressive.
Yeah, it is. A guy that can really bring a program up quickly. Now, it's certainly, we're in the transfer portal in the NIL era where you can get guys to your school easier, so it's a little easier to upgrade your personnel quickly. I'm just curious, Cole, how many if any, of these Penn State defenders may be interested in making their way down to Pickens County, South Carolina?
Be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Texter from the 517 chimes in on the text line, which you can do at 844-326-3050. 3663. Texture says, that's why Clemson is a blue blood football program. Only blue blood able to take a coordinator from another big program and hire him for the same position. Time will tell if it's a good hire. Clemson is a blue blood program nowadays. I think I think it has the potential. I don't want to call it a great hire yet, but Diesel, I think it has the potential to be a great hire. We know their defense was in the gutter last year. They took a big step back. And if this guy who's a little bit older can come in and do the same thing he did at Penn State in his first season, maybe this could be a really interesting season in 2025.
Reminds me a tiny bit of the Eric Bakich hire, getting a guy out of the Big Ten who you know is really, really good, hamstrung just a little bit by where you are, weather, and all those things. You bring him down south, man, he could be up to some big things next season if he is, in fact, the hire. When we come back, Cole, do we have a new bad boy in the NBA? I'm going to see if you're buying that theory next, right here on the Fan Upstate. So Cole, I know that you still live in and love living the apartment lifestyle. You said so on the show last week.
Yeah.
But if you were living in a house, how long is too long to leave up your Christmas decorations?
Boy.
I'm talking the lights, the tree outside, the lawn ornaments, that kind of stuff. How long is too long to leave up Christmas decorations?
Ooh. Okay, I took my tree down I think right before New Year's.
Wow.
I think post New Year's.
Post New Year.
Yeah, I think
so you get 6 days to get all your Christmas crap down, or you're leaving it up too long?
I think so, man.
Wow.
I think by January 1st, January 2nd, all right, it's time to get that.
That makes me feel bad because we just got ours down this past weekend. All of it. Tree
Nothing
came
wrong
down.
with that.
Well,
Nothing wrong with that.
Not all of it, because there's still 2 little fake Christmas trees sitting in the planters by the front door. But look, they blew over in the wind, so they don't really look like Christmas decorations anymore. Either way, we took all our Christmas tree decorations down, or not tree decorations, but everything down.
Was it sad to you?
No, I love taking it down.
I do
My wife gets a little teary-eyed over it, but I love taking it. She's like, "Can we leave it up one more day?"
Yeah.
No, man. Yeah, if you wonder if you're the neighbor that leaves your Christmas stuff up too long, and you look around, and you see nobody else has it, you're that neighbor. You're that neighbor who leaves his stuff up too long. I've learned, Cole, that if you put up fewer decorations,
oh, that's true.
It's a whole lot less work to take it down.
I like taking it down because it's all right, it's a new season. I love every season. I love every time of year.
I like being able to walk through my foyer. It's not a foyer, but
that makes
I
sense.
like being able to walk around without a tree there. So
Makes
again, I've learned something. Don't put as much stuff up. You don't have to take as much stuff down. Somebody who hasn't learned anything this season in the NBA is Timberwolves star Anthony Edwards, who has now been fined $285,000, and he still keeps getting fined. How do you let this happen? I know, if you're rich and you're making, I don't know, what is Anthony Edwards' contract worth? Just a guess.
Probably more than 285.
Yeah, at that point, 285 is chump change to you.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards has a base salary of $42 million
a year.
Yes.
What?
Yes. He has
what?
He has a 5-year, $244 million contract.
Wow.
Well, when you're one of the best in the game, you're going to make that kind of money. Yeah, he's making $42 million a year.
I got to do the
Minnesota.
math on this. 285 divided by 42. I don't even know if this computer calculator will go up that high. That's 42,000. There's 42 million. 285,000 divided by 42 million. 0.006. So
it's not even a tenth of a salary is what you're saying.
No, it's not even a tenth of a salary.
So it's not chump change to him, right?
Yeah. Okay. Now I want to do that for my salary. I'm not going to give the number out over the air.
There's a lot of zeros. I know that.
Yeah.
A lot of zeros.
See how much that would cost to me on my base salary.
See, it takes so long to type it in, you make so much money.
I wouldn't want to lose that. Look, I'm not going to tell you what the number is.
Yeah.
But it's not an amount of money that I would just be like, yeah, it's okay. I'll give that up.
Just to put in perspective, though, for Anthony Edwards weekly, and I know they don't make you and I, we get paid bi-weekly. If Anthony Edwards were to make a weekly check for the entire year, 52 weeks, it would be $875,000 a week. So put in perspective, He got fined what? What'd you say?
He got paid. He just got fined another $50,000, now totaling $285,000 worth of fines this year.
So think about this: if your weekly paycheck's $875,000, $50,000,
that's nothing.
Yeah,
nothing. Still, but at what point do you say I'm an idiot? It's still $50,000.
Maybe when you start to notice it. In your bank. And again, players like that make that much money, I don't even know if they look at their bank. They probably have people who manage their money. They probably don't even open their Bank of America app like I do.
They call up their financial guy, says, hey, I'd like to buy a Porsche Carrera 911 GT this week. Can I do that?
Right.
And his financial guy would say, yeah, dude, you got like $45 million in the bank.
You just made another million in 1 week. So, yeah, you're good. You're okay.
on top of all I'm sure the endorsements he has on top of that. But, Cole, I wonder here, number one, is it worth it for the Timberwolves to let him just keep being himself? Because he's a real good basketball player.
He is, yeah.
Also, is it worth it for him to keep doing? And are you buying Anthony Edwards as a bad boy? Like, he's clearly a bad man on the basketball court. He's putting up 25 and a half a night this year, just under 6 rebounds, just under 4.5 assists per game. He's playing out of his mind. He's a really good basketball player, but is he a bad boy? Does it feel natural for Anthony Edwards to be cursing at the refs, to be throwing middle fingers at the refs, cursing in the post-game press conferences? Are you buying it out of Anthony?
I think so. I think him and Ja Morant both are two guys that I kind of look in that same light as. And I think I'll tell you this, I think it's a good thing for the NBA. I think that maybe, just maybe, one thing the NBA is missing right now is a couple of good villains and a couple of good guys. Good guys yet. Two goods there. I do think it. I think he is. I think he deserves to be. He's edgy, right? Mm-hmm. He's maybe top 5 on the planet right now. I mean, he averages 44% from the field in this is his 5th season in the NBA. Yeah, I think he is. I think he deserves to be, and I think it's a good thing for the NBA if Ja Morant could elevate himself to the status of Anthony Edwards, and those two guys were really good, and they also were like bad guys. I think it'd be great for the NBA.
It's funny, we talk about Anthony Edwards being a heel in the NBA compared, though, to heels of the past. It's nothing, right? I mean, back then, you could get away with a lot more and still be out there on the court. If you got away with what some of the all-time great heels, or if you attempted some of the things the all-time great heels did, you'd be sat down on the bench for the rest of the season.
Yeah, we're not talking about North Carolina Tar Heels. We're talking about heels as in bad guys, exactly. Just so you know.
Let's go to the phone lines real quick. Bring in Delvin, who's on the phone. Delvin, what's on your mind?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, man, Dabo does it again with his hire, man. Unbelievable. I didn't expect Tom Allen.
It's a good hire, right?
It is.
Yeah, that's a good hire. I was looking at somebody like Jim Leonard in the NFL.
Well, that was Jim Leonard was still, I don't know if they could talk yet because, he was still playing as of yesterday, but Jim Leonard was probably the number 2 option there, Delvin.
Yeah, and I thought somebody like that. I didn't think when people brought Tom Allen, I'm like, that would be a great choice, but I don't think they can get him. But somehow Dabo pulls it again. But I read Pete Thamel report there. I didn't know this. He got 2 daughters living in Carolina, so he.
Oh wow, interesting! Didn't know that.
Pete Thamel report. He said he got 2 daughters living in Carolina, so being close to them doesn't help.
Sure.
And people probably say, "Oh yeah, he's a Midwest guy." Now he don't coach in the South. He coached at Ole Miss. He coached at South Florida, so he familiar with the South, and that's a good hire. And don't forget, he knows about Will. Can you imagine him with Will Help and T.J. Parker on the outside at defense end?
Sure. No.
Well, he knows.
Yeah.
And, I think he's Brent Venables 2.0. Have you seen his pregame speech with Indiana? Boy, that's how you got to do it. If Clemson fan, look at that speech. Tell me that's not Brent Venables 2.0.
I like it.
Excited, Delvin. Appreciate the phone call. We're going to talk to Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider in the very next segment to talk about this potential hire, this alleged hire.
Diesel Texter says, this comes from the 441. Anthony loses 50% or more in taxes and agents and lawyers. There will come a day in his life he may want that money back. I don't know if he loses 50% or more. I don't know if that's the right number. I know taxes
are high, but come on.
Yeah, that 50%. I mean, that's half of his salary. More. I don't think that. I don't know. I don't think it. It may be 20 to 30. I don't know if it's 50. Texter says thoughts from Wire to Wire on a potential Panthers-Jets trade that would send Garrett Wilson to Carolina. What picks/players would make that deal worthwhile? This comes from Tolo Jack. I haven't heard anything about that, Tolo Jack, but if you do, if that picks up steam, continue to let us know. Here's Jersey Joe's thoughts on that, Diesel. Jersey Joe says, I'm sorry, but nobody, and I mean nobody, is worth $42 million a year. Even a million is too much. I don't care what your name is. any player, any sport says Jersey Joe.
Well, Jersey Joe, that's certainly an opinion you can have, but you're in no way, shape, or form going to change it. And
yeah,
I don't know if you're telling us that that's the reason why you don't watch the NBA. Well, don't watch professional sports at all. I mean, heck, don't watch college sports at all, because a lot of these big time players are multi-million-dollar a year players, even in college athletics. So it's a weird thing. I mean, yeah, these salaries are absurd, right?
They're absurd.
They are absurd.
But guess who's to blame for it? We like the fans that attend the games on a night in and night out basis. Why do, to your point, Jersey Joe? And look, I agree with you on the premise of a human being making $42 million a year to play basketball. It's absurd, to Diesel's point, but why do those franchises have the money that they have? Well, a lot of it's because the fans, the butts in the seats, the jersey sales, right? The loyal support that these organizations, Diesel, whether it be NFL, MLB, or NBA, I mean, we're the ones paying them, aren't we?
And you got to give these. First of all, you got to. I've always heard the saying, "The value of anything is what someone is willing to pay for it."
Sure.
And these NBA franchises make a tremendous amount of money, just absurd amounts of money. So they've got it. They can afford to pay it. And they are willing to sign on the dotted line just like the players are, right? And the Timberwolves know if we don't pay him $42 million a year, somebody else will. The agents deserve a lot of credit for being able to put together deals like this. I mean, think about it back 20 years ago, you had players making $5, $6, $7 million a year. Now they're making $40 million a year. The numbers have gone up astronomically because these players are the reason why these franchises generate so much money. And there's so much more power involved in the negotiating room to say, I am the reason you're making the kind of money that you're making. I deserve more money than what I'm getting.
Look, I understand that college sports are going that way as well. So to Diesel's point, you can not watch professional sports because if your reason for not watching professional sports is because of the amount of money they make, that's fine. But don't watch college sports, because I'm not saying a college player will ever make that much money, because I don't think they will. But is Carson Beck getting $4 million for one season? I mean, to play college football, are you okay with that? Or I mean, where do you stand? Because people are going to, to your point, people are going to pay you for what you're worth.
Yeah.
At
the same time, Cole, a lot of these guys use a lot of their money to do great philanthropic things for their hometowns and for their families. And I don't agree with pocket watching, which where you look at somebody and how much money they make, and you judge them because of how much money they make, and you judge them for how they choose to spend their money. So long as they're spending the money on something legal, I don't have a problem with somebody owning 25 Lamborghinis. If that's what you want to do with your money, do it. If you'd rather take that $42 million a year and invest 10 of it, 15 of it back into your hometown to help raise up an entire community of people, do it. I don't have any problem whatsoever with how you choose to spend your money. But a lot of these guys do a lot of philanthropic work because they understand that it helps put them in a lower tax bracket.
And look how much LeBron's given to build schools over the years. I mean, literally funding, building schools. And I mean, you're right. It's something that's, you do what you want with it. Michael in Simpsonville says the problem with the NBA is they have a minimum salary level for each team. That's why you have guys that play 2.5 minutes a game and average 4 points per game and are making $9 million a year. Dexter says,
that also prevents teams from choosing not to pay their players and sucking forever like you have in Major League Baseball. They finally implemented they raised the minimum salary, and all of a sudden, bam, you got more competitive teams.
Texter, I think this is from the 354, says, and we're the stupid, gullible people for supporting them. Well, look, I don't think you're stupid and gullible if you're a sports fan. I am a diehard sports fan. I have been my entire life. I have unwavering support for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know why. I do. And you know what? I think that if you find joy in sports, and it's an out for you, Diesel, because a lot of people watch sports because it's an out. It's a way to get away from everything else in life, whether it be politics or just it's fun, right? It's fun to follow. It's a getaway for a lot of people. So if that's your getaway, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to spend money if you have it. Now, I'm not saying gamble all your money away, but if you have the money and you love sports, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, so it's gonna be fun to watch Anthony Edwards to see if he keeps putting his foot in his mouth see if he thinks it's worth it to go up to $350 or $400 or $500,000 in fines. At some point, his agent, his financial guy, or maybe it's his mama, is gonna grab him up by the arm and say, "Yo, Anthony Edwards, stop doing that.
Fines.
Knock it off. Quit getting fines."
Texter asked, did Diesel just say doo-doo on air? I don't know. I missed it. If you did, I usually catch things like that. Doo-doo. Did you do doo-doo?
I don't think
Sometimes you do a do.
I can be fairly certain that I
but
have not.
It doesn't sound like doo-doo. It's do-do, right? I don't know if you did.
Are you saying that I said the 4-letter word, or are you saying that I literally, quote, said doo-doo on the air?
I think it was
saying either one of those.
If you said it, I think it was a do-do, not a do-do, a do-do. Texter asks, can you honestly say that Carson Beck is worth $4 million, even coming off surgery? I don't know that he's worth $4 million to my team. Is he worth $4 million to Miami? Again, it goes back to how much is Miami willing to spend to have a quarterback from the SEC that's going to keep them competitive, Diesel. For them, it may be worth it.
Big reason why I don't donate to NIL, because it's not worth it to me to have a $4 million quarterback.
Right. The question is it worth it, or is he worth $4 million? And I guess I would answer by saying to who? To Diesel and I? No. To Miami, who has probably unlimited amount of funds? Yeah, he's probably worth it to them. $4 million seems like a lot to you and I, but it might not be to them. Jersey Joe says, don't get me wrong, I love sports, but just ridiculous that these salaries that these guys are getting paid. Look, I'm not going to say the word you said because I don't want to classify them all as that, but it's a lot of money. I do acknowledge that. It is a lot of money. Speaking of a lot of money, Diesel, Clemson might be making a lot of money next season if they can get to where a lot of people think they can get with a new defensive coordinator hire. It looks as if Clemson has made a decision on a guy. Not official yet, but Pete Thamel reported it earlier. We'll get into that with Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider next. We've had a lot of conversation from you Tolos, which stands for Turn On, Leave On, thus far today about Clemson and their potential defensive coordinator that broke this morning. And to talk all things Clemson, specifically the defensive coordinator job search, we bring on Will Vandervoort, the Clemson insider, to give us an idea on which direction Clemson may be heading. Will, always a pleasure talking to you. It was reported this morning by Pete Thamel that Clemson is working toward a deal to hire Penn State defensive coordinator Tom Allen as the school's next defensive coordinator. Before we get into why and how, what was your initial reaction to that?
Well, the first thing I do is I go see if it's right.
See if it's true.
So we did get it. We did get it confirmed that all signs are pointing to Tom Allen to become the next defensive coordinator at Clemson. We can tell you this: the Board of Trustees is going to. They called a meeting to approve a football coach's compensation tomorrow at 3:00. That'll be that kind of was the telltale sign to me that everything got done. But we had heard earlier in the morning that it was going to be a done deal. It's just a matter of they were trying to get everything done and agree to everything. And so that's going to come out tomorrow. We'll have more details on the contract will be and all that stuff too. But right now, yeah, it looks like Dabo has his guy, and it's going to be Penn State's Tom Allen.
Will, can you talk about the trend? We've seen it a lot with the biggest programs in college football, hiring a lot of former head coaches to bring them on as assistants rather than seeing a lot of retread head coaches get multiple chances down the line. You see a lot of coaches who have been let go for one reason or another being brought on as coordinators, high-level analysts, et cetera, across the biggest programs. What does that mean inside of a program to have a guy who has that kind of experience, having been a head coach, now, being focused on one specific element of the game?
Well, it's the second guy Dabo Swinney has on his staff like that, right? I mean, he's got Matt Luke, who's the former head coach at Ole Miss as well on his staff. So he went and did that last year, right? Went and got that guy last year. And that was a big get too at the time. And you saw how much that improvement the offensive line made this year. And what you get with a guy like that, Brad Scott back in the day was that guy on Dabo's staff when he first got the job as head coach. And having a guy like that on your staff that's been through the battles, that has been in those situations when things are not going well, how you handle it, that experience you bring in, that experience of how you communicate to your players. And then just also if you've been to places like Tom Allen's been to, different places, you bring that experience in as well. And so when you get in those meeting rooms and you're hunkering down with your coaches, that level of experience comes out, and it really helps on decisions you make, how you're going to attack another team, how you're going to handle a certain situation inside your program. All those things play into it. And so it's like, if you're the president of the United States and you get your joint chief of staff, right? That's kind of what it is in those situations. To simplify it a little bit, it just helps with decision making. And then you got a guy you trust on the coaching field, on the practice field, that you really got to worry about him. He's getting his job done. This guy's been through it. He's been a head coach. He knows things. He knows how to do things the right way. Dabo's going to go over there and watch and look, but at the same time, he knows he's got a guy that he can trust to run the program, to run the defense, and he really doesn't have to worry about how he's going about it and what's happening over there.
Will, do you have any idea on who the finalists were for this DC job?
Well, I think, that's kind of hard to say, guys, because, we've heard several guys that were interested. I know, we can say guys that I knew were on the list, that, Leonard was one of them. The defensive backs coach at Denver. We reported, Tim Banks had some interest, the defensive coordinator at Tennessee. So there were several guys I think that was interested in, and they were interested in Clemson. Where it got to in those conversations, I don't know. That's something it's really hard to find out in these situations, guys, because A, the coach doesn't want to get out there that the school turned him down, and B, the school doesn't want to get out there that the coach turned them down. So it's one of those things where you kind of just maybe talk and you talk to your representatives and stuff like that, but it kind of just goes from there. So, yeah, it's one of those things where they kind of keep those kind of things quiet for the most part as far as what officially happened. You know what I'm saying? And who was actually the finalist, who may not have wanted the job, or who made Clemson offered it to that turned it down, or vice versa. You know, those are things that, you know, the school doesn't like to release, neither does the person who's involved in that.
Talking to Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider on the Fan Upstate. What do you think personnel-wise might have to change a little bit to adjust to Tom Allen's potential scheme? Because since it's not finalized yet, you know, what is this going to mean changing to a different base? What is it going to mean for personnel possibly having to move around if this is in fact the hire?
Yeah, we'll see, you know, what kind of defense they're going to run. Clemson's always been a 4-3 defense for the last, I can't remember how long. I mean, going all the way back, I guess, to the Tommy West days, they've been pretty much a 4-3 base. I'm going 20-plus years, right? So it'd be interesting to see what they do. I think Clemson does have, if they want to go 3-4, go to a 3-4 base, I think they could do it. I think they do have the personnel in place to do that, especially when you look at a guy that they just brought in from Alabama that could play that outside backer position and be probably really good at it. You got Wade Woodaz, who could play that position as well as a stand-up backer. And then you got two guys in the middle that could be, you know, your true traditional middle linebackers in the middle there. So they can play it. I think they can play four linebackers. Now they don't have the depth for four linebackers. That's where the depth will come into play. On the defensive front, definitely Peter Woods is a guy that can play that, you know, he can play that technique, that defensive end kind of technique in a 3-4. You know, he'll probably, you got, you know, we'll see what happens with Devontae Capehart. He's a guy that can play zero technique, what you need there. So, and then you got somebody who can play the 3 technique as well, or the nose. You know, they have some guys that can probably do that, in a Vic Burley or somebody of that nature. So I think the personnel's in place for them to play a 3-4 defense. But you know, I don't know. We'll see what happens. They do. Dabo's pretty set in his ways on how he likes to do things. So if Dabo wants to run a 4-3, then Allen would come in and just probably do that.
Is there any reason to think, Will, that you know, if he does come and bring a new scheme, that may give Clemson a little more reason to dip into the transfer portal when that second window opens back up?
It's hard to say. You know, if they go 3-4, they'll have to get another couple linebackers in for depth purposes. So if they went that way, that's what that would tell me. That probably. They would look at some guys to see if they can get somebody to come in and fill in for some depth situations. But if they don't, then you know, I don't see them unless somebody leaves, which can always happen too.
Yeah.
I know people, they sign these deals, but people need to understand these deals that they can still in the spring, if they don't like where they are on the depth chart, still get in the portal and leave anytime they want to. There's nothing that holds you to that place, right? I mean, so if a guy isn't happy with where he's at in a, you know, on the depth chart coming out of the spring, you know, you could see a player to, you know, jump in the portal at that time as well. So then you'd have to go get somebody, right? Because now you just lost a couple guys that you're going to need. So we'll see what happens. I think the spring's going to be very interesting for that. We'll see what kind of scheme they're running. And then, you know, how they're doing it from a personnel standpoint. And then if they do need to jump in the portal and get somebody.
Clemson fans, if you have a question for Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider, you can message it in on the text line, 844-326-3663. That's 844-FAN-PHONE, phone with an F. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Will, for those that out there that are curious, including myself, you may know the answer to this, you may not, but when Dabo Swinney brings on an assistant, I mean, he's been at Clemson for a good while now, the interview process, what does that look like? Are there others involved in the interview process other than Dabo, or is it just a Dabo-only decision?
Oh, well, the decision ultimately is made by Dabo Swinney, yes. Dabo will lean on that he trusts. You think about it like, when he brought in Garrett Riley, he leaned on Garrett's brother down at Southern Cal.
Yeah.
Called him up, said, hey, man, I got some guys I want for, possibility, that I'm looking at maybe making a change at offensive coordinator. What do you think of this guy, and this guy? And of course, Coach Riley was like, well, hey, have you talked to my brother yet? My brother might be interested. And so Dad was like, no, I didn't think he'd be interested. And that's how that all took place, right? So he will lean on some guys outside the program, inside the program, guys he's known in the profession that he trusts. I want to keep in mind that's a small window. There's not that many guys that are in that trust with Dabo Swinney. So it's a small select group that he does. And then when he gets into the process of actually talking to a candidate or whatever, obviously athletic director Graham Ness is going to be involved in that because he's got final say on whether, they're going to let Dabo make the decision, but Graham's going to want to know who he's talking to and what, what the school needs to do to help it progress through in the interview process. And so, Graham would be a guy that would be involved in that as well. And Dabo would value Graham's opinion too in that situation. So that's kind of how the process works with Dabo and really with a lot of coaches, guys. It's the same way. Coaches they have their own fraternity, and there's certain guys they trust that they can go to and get advice from, and they know they're getting their honest advice. And so Dabo has a couple of those guys that he turns to for that kind of stuff.
Well, I'd love to get your thoughts on a story that broke last week about the TikToker, the YouTuber who was banned from Clemson's campus and had made his way into Memorial Stadium. I think it was back in November, and was just walking around filming content. As somebody who's been in and out of that stadium a whole bunch of times, as you have, does it shock you that he was able to get into the stadium? And have you heard anything, and maybe you can't tell us this either, about some security enhancements to prevent it from happening again?
Well, I can tell you there'll be some security enhancements because they don't want anybody just walking into the stadium, especially at Clemson being, and you guys know what's happened in the past. The Rock has been majorly violated 3 times in the past, and it's been a while since anything like that's happened to it since. But the fact that a guy could just walk in the stadium probably did put up a red alert and get guys to say, hey, okay, we can't have this happen. We can't have a guy just walking into the stadium and being able to go, walk around and get a tour of the facility with nobody there. So, yeah, there'll probably be some added security to it, and they'll make sure now that the Rock was locked up, and it's really, you can't touch the Rock now the way they got that thing set up to keep people from getting on it like they did. I guess the last time it happened was about 10 years ago. Maybe less than that, maybe 2000, I can't remember. Maybe it was 10 years ago, 2014 or 15, somewhere in that range, before they went on this run that they've been on. So it's been a while since anything like that's happened, but at the same time, considering somebody got in, that's going to amp up the security to where, because they don't want anything to happen to the Rock again, and believe it or not, guys, people are crazy, and they try to do stupid things like, oh, I'm gonna grab a piece of the Rock, I'm gonna chip it off, Like, I don't know why people are dumb like that, but people do crazy things, and so you gotta take precautions that people are going to do it, and I don't blame Clemson for doing it. I know Georgia, after he released his video, Georgia did the same thing where they banned him from Stanford Stadium as well. But it was after he got caught at Clemson doing it, where at Georgia, he actually, got it up on TikTok and all, and Georgia saw it on TikTok. And then that's when they put out the notification to him that he's banned from the stadium. And I think he got a warrant for trespassing as well. So yeah, it's, you got to be careful. Look, we're all sports fans. I'm sure you've done it. I've done it. I've gone into stadiums across the country that when it wasn't game day and walked in and gave myself a personal tour. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't put it on social media.
Right. That's the difference. Will, as we let you go, to put a nice bow on the hire that's pending as of tomorrow with the Board of Trustees with Tom Allen, Clemson fans should feel how if this does go through tomorrow and Tom Allen is the next DC?
Elated. I think this was the big splash you wanted. You're getting a guy who, as you mentioned, is a former head coach, had some really good defenses when he was at Indiana, when he was DC and the head coach there. And then he had a great defense this year when he showed when you give him the talent, he can have a top 10 defense. I mean, he was top 10. Penn State's defense was top 10 all across the board, right, this past year. I mean, they were the top 10 or top 5 in sacks and red zone defense and tackles for loss and run defense and rushing defensive yards allowed and scoring defense and total defense. I mean, that's a guy you want to run your defense. And Clemson doesn't lack talent, guys. We know that. And if he can come down here and put up similar kind of numbers at Clemson, knowing what Clemson has offensively next year. Now, I'm not saying Clemson's going to be a top 10 defense next year, but just remember 2 years, the year before in 2023, they were a top 10 defense. So not far from it. And if he can just make them a top 20 defense with that offense Clemson has, then Clemson has a chance to really make a good run in the college football playoff. And so this is a good hire by Dabo, and I think it's a hire where I think he's going to stay a while. Him and Dabo have the same kind of personalities. I think they're going to get along a lot well. I think that's going to be something good for Clemson because you're going to have some stability at that defense coordinator position for a while.
He is Will Vandervoort, the Clemson Insider. You can find him on Twitter at Clemson Insider. Appreciate your time today.
All right, Cole. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yep, that is Will Vandervoort. When we come back, time to do a whip around. Our Daily Wires coming up next. Well, let's get to our daily wires. Just a moment. We will do our whip around the sports world. Before we get there, we got just about a minute for the Leprechaun of Lyman, who I wanted to do a wellness check on Saturday to make sure that he hadn't drank himself into oblivion after Notre Dame got the dub and is heading to the national championship game. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to Notre Dame. Nate, what have you got to say?
Well, Diesel, I wanted to call in Friday, but there are two reasons why I didn't. Number one, it snowed, and I wanted to spend some time with my family. I lost track of time and forgot to tune in. But secondly, I didn't even have a voice, so I wouldn't have been able to talk on the radio. I was doing so much screaming. How about this? Notre Dame beat James Franklin, and the Fighting Franklins go down. And I couldn't be happier. As I sat in Dave and Buster's, cursing those stupid cats, and drank my sweet tea underneath me big green hat, I saw a glimmer of hope as we entered into half, and pondered to myself, can we really pull this off? The first and second half, we trailed by 7, and at times thought the game was done. But the Irish never faltered, never floundered, and we beat those kiddies, son! When this season is over, and we tell this playoff story, the Irish will be remembered in the annals of Team Glory. I have a message for Ryan Day. Your day is finally at hand. We knock off that stupid Buckeye head. It's going to be grand. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're on to the championship game. They said we'll never win it, but why not us? Why not that grand old Notre Dame? Woo-hoo!
Thanks, Leprechaun. That was a good one.
That was good
I think
stuff.
that was one of his best.
Oh, Leprechaun of Lyman, you're awesome.
I think that was one of the best ones, man.
I hope that we had Tolos go meet him at Dave & Buster's in Greenville.
I can tell you this: I'm excited that he's excited,
Yeah.
but I don't think he's gonna be
I
excited.
don't know. Notre Dame they got down, they fought back.
They're gonna need
I
some.
think they have a chance.
They're gonna need some luck.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
We'll see.
These are our daily wires, Cole. This is the buzz happening around the sports world. Washington's playoff win Sunday night was the first playoff win for the franchise since 2006 when Jaden Daniels was 5.
Huh? 5. 5 years old
Yeah.
is the last time they won a play. That's unbelievable. That's a crazy statistic. Congratulations to Washington. They have turned it around quickly, and it pains me to say that.
We spent a lot of time talking about it in the very last segment with Will Vandervoort. Go back and find it on the rewind. But Clemson is working towards a deal to hire Penn State defensive coordinator Tom Allen as their new DC. This is being reported by Pete Thamel. A 55-year-old Texas man was arrested on felony stalking charges in Indianapolis on Sunday after he allegedly sent threats and sexually violent messages to Caitlin Clark via social media. Police records show that Michael Lewis of Denton, Texas, was charged with a level 5 felony after he was arrested at a hotel in Indianapolis. He is scheduled to appear in court Tuesday morning. He could face up to 6 years and a $10,000 fine.
I lived in Denton County.
Yeah?
That's the
A lot of
county I
weirdos
lived
down
in.
there?
I mean, I didn't run into him on a daily basis, but wow.
Yeah, I thought you might know the guy. Apparently, he sent her messages like, been driving around your house 3 times a day, but don't call the law just yet. And I'm getting tickets. I'm sitting right behind the bench. Other messages were sexually violent.
Yeah, you can't do that.
It's not good.
Not good.
Mike McCarthy is out as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. His contract with the Cowboys expired last Wednesday, and they held the exclusive negotiating window until Tuesday night at midnight. But apparently negotiations just broke down.
I really do, Diesel. After I listened this morning to a lot of local radio in Dallas, I believe that it was McCarthy walking away and not
Smart.
wanting to agree for the amount of money that was being offered. I think it was just as much, if not more, on Mike saying, "Nah, I'm good. Thanks, though."
Tyson Fury announced that he is retiring from boxing again, saying, quote, "It's been a blast. I've loved every single minute of it, and I'm going to end with this. Dick Turpin wore a mask. God bless everybody. See you on the other side." And you may be saying, who is Dick Turpin? What is he talking about? A famed 18th century English highway robber and horse thief. Maybe it's CTE.
And he expects us to know what he's talking about.
But when I said he retired again, Tyson Fury retired in 2013, 2017, 2022, and now in 2025. This is
a trend, right?
Yeah. I mean, only Kiss has more retirements and comebacks than does Tyson Fury. The NBA fined Timberwolves star Anthony Edwards $50,000 for making obscene gestures towards a game official. It is his 5th fine this season, now totaling $285,000. He's quite good, though, and he's got the money. So,
yeah, he has plenty of money.
Timberwolves be happy to let him keep making those mistakes as long as he keeps putting up 25 a night. Former LSU star wide receiver Kyron Lacey was arrested and released on bond after being charged in connection with a fatal hit and run in Louisiana. Lacey faces charges of negligent homicide, hit and run driving, and reckless operation of a vehicle. The incident resulted in the death of a 78-year-old man and injured 2 other individuals in the crash.
Not good. Not good at all. But, I'm sorry, was there one more?
No, go ahead.
What is good is Dan Scott, who does the Furman broadcast right here on the Fan Upstate. Also good is Overreaction Monday. That's what today is. Overreaction Monday in the very next segment, Tolos. We need your best overreaction from the weekend, and we will also be joined by Dan Scott at some point during the segment as he is live getting set up over at the Well for a big rivalry tonight. Furman, Wofford on the hardwood. We'll talk to him and more next. Just want to let you Tolos know that a little bit of a abbreviated edition of Wire to Wire today, as Diesel and I will be signing off at 6:30 due to Furman basketball tonight against Wofford. Really
Big game,
good,
rivalry game. Heck yeah.
Always fun, always fun. I'd like to have gone. I'd like to be able to go. I've been working all day, not really – public clothes. I'm in kind of dirty work clothes, so I probably won't go. But my alternative will be to listen to Dan Scott right here on the Fan Upstate.
You get there, they'll sell you a T-shirt when you get there.
You think so?
They're happy to.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
They'll sell me one. Can I take your card? Can I take your credit card? All right. It is time to overreact Tolos at 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. That number is the number you can use to text the show as well as call the show. Again, one number now does it all. Best overreactions for Overreaction Monday. I really want to go Chargers with mine, Diesel. Is that appropriate to overreact to to the Chargers dropping the ball and overreact by saying maybe we should quit believing in LA? Is that an overreaction?
Well, yeah. I mean, they still have good players on that roster. They still have a great coach on that team. And I guess some days, what was it? The guy in Kingpin said, not Kingpin. He said sometimes you eat the bar, and sometimes the bar he eats you.
Every dog has its day, dog, but today, dog, just ain't yours.
Yeah, right? It was Sam Elliott in the bowling movie.
Yeah,
blanking off the top of my head. But
the bowling movie.
Sometimes you just get your butt whipped.
I'm not the movie genius, but I'm going to go Chargers there. I like the overreaction there because it was a Big
Lebowski. It wasn't a bowling movie. However, there was a considerable amount of bowling in the Big Lebowski.
So get your overreactions in. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to do so. We're going to go to the phones. We might talk to Dan Scott between now and then to preview Furman tonight for a quick second right here on the Fan Upstate, and then we need your best overreactions from the sports weekend. Let's go to the phones, 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. Tom in Somerville wants to chime in. What's up, Tom?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Tom.
I hope y'all had a great weekend. I know, thanks to Diesel's promo on Underdog Fantasy, I had a great weekend.
Saturday, why don't you use promo code WORD, Tom?
Yeah, Saturday I hit 3 5 out of 5. It was great.
Wow.
And then my wife sends me to the grocery store, so all the money that I gained from the parlays went right to the grocery store.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know where that money didn't come from? It didn't come from your bank account.
It's true.
That's right. So I had 3 of them, and it was a great weekend. So my overreaction is I might just need to make this my full-time job. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that.
He called South Carolina to win 9 games. So.
He did, yeah. He did.
Hey, but my thing is with Clemson's defensive coordinator hire, Tom Allen is a good person. People love him. I got a couple buddies that are IU graduates. They loved him. It just did not work in the end. I think he'll fit in really, really good with the Clemson culture. I think it's a good, smart hire from Dabo Swinney. Okay. I'll be honest. I think it was a good hire.
What's your name?
And other than that, Cole, I'm just curious who you want the Cowboys to hire, and does his last name start with an S, and does he have a son with the last name that starts with an S?
That's good stuff.
Yeah, he asked you. Tom, ask him that question one more time because he was answering the phone.
I apologize.
Oh, I was going to ask you if the next Dallas Cowboy head football coach, does his last name start with an S, and does he have a son with the first name that starts with an S?
Oh, I thought at first you were going Sarkisian. That's not where you're going, though, right?
No. It was in the state of Colorado.
No, thanks. No, thanks. Thanks, Tom.
I would love that.
Thanks, but no
Hey,
thanks.
Tom, before you get off the phone, I'm going to need you to send me your picks, before you get off the phone, I'm going to need you to send me your picks because I'm getting killed on Underdog Fantasy right now, and I need some help making my picks.
You know, I will say this about Underdog. They give you fantastic live game bet options. You got to jump on them quick, but if you jump on them quick, they give you really good options.
Sounds
but
good.
I'll send them over to you, Diesel. I haven't done my research yet, but I'm going to do my research for the game tonight when I get home.
Thanks,
Love
Tom.
it. Thank you, Tom.
All right, we got two more. Overreaction Monday. Dewey's up next. Dewey, what's your overreaction?
Yes, I'm not sure if this is an overreaction or truth. Lamont Parrish needs to be fired.
Oh, come
No.
He needs to
on.
be fired now.
They almost
Well,
beat the
well,
number one, number
yeah.
two team in the
A
country.
3-point loss to Auburn, that's not bad, Dewey.
It's bad because it's the third SEC game they lost. They're 0-3 in the SEC.
Well, that's not good.
terrible. That
Ah.
is terrible.
That is an overreaction.
Even if it is Auburn,
Why-
number
what's
three
your name?
country, they should have won that game. He needs to be fired. And yeah, he
Thanks,
needs to be
Dewey.
fired.
Thanks, Dewey.
Thank you.
Lamont Paris needs to be fired. 844 fan phone. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's Dewey's opinion. 844-326-3663. JD, what is your Monday overreaction?
Oh, well, you know what? I've got two of them.
Okay.
And first of all, no, I've got three. First of all, thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, man.
Secondly, I've got a problem, or not really a problem, but the South Carolina men's basketball team, Dewey, hey, no. Lamont Paris does not need to be fired. They don't have any players right now. Help's coming. We're fine. Has it been great? No. We've had improved shooting this last game against Auburn. All granted, we still shot from like less than 40%, I think, which still isn't great, but it's better than what we've been. So my first overreaction is no, Dewey, do not fire Lamont Paris. Secondly, Tom, I know that Diesel talks really fast at the end of that Underdog promo that he does, but you can't make this your full-time job, bro. Not quite yet, man. They tell you at the end of you hear it. They tell you call the gambler's hotline if you have a problem. That's a problem. That's a red flag.
It's only a problem
And
if
that
you
is all
lose.
three. That's all of my three overreactions for this Monday, y'all. Be blessed, not stressed. We're heading to the well for Furman Wofford basketball.
Thanks,
Let's go.
JD.
Thanks, JD.
All right, that was pretty good. Let's that's okay. I don't know if Tom is not good enough yet, but I say go for it. Let me get two more.
Yeah, when I'm going to give you just a second to take these
what's
phone
your
calls here. My overreaction is that any offensive coordinator that throws a pitch on first down and second down in the red zone needs to be fired.
Why?
I know I said earlier, Cole, that if it works, you seem like a genius, or in better terms, any coach that tries to run that play out of the shotgun needs to be fired because you're automatically costing yourself 5 yards.
All right, we've got Madcraft. We've got Brandon on this Overreaction Monday. The phone lines are lighting up. First, Madcraft, we have worried about you. We sent in an APB because of the egg that your team laid this weekend. Madcraft, what's up, man?
Well, first off, my name's not Madcraft today. It's Sadcraft.
Sadcraft.
Ain't nothing to be mad about. There ain't nothing to be mad about.
Okay.
But listen, I'm to the point now where I'm thinking I'm gonna give up football, and I'm gonna go replace it with a sport that I find more interesting, and I'm gonna join a curling club.
Ah,
You
you
guys want to go curling?
Is it
I've
just
always
because
wanted to go curling.
Is it just because Miami choked at the end of the season and so did LA?
No.
You're gonna make him cry live on the air, Cole.
That was embarrassing, Madcraft.
I know.
What happened?
Well, first off, the offensive line in the second half disappeared. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, he got sacked like 3 times in a row, didn't he?
Yeah, but in the first half, we were fine. We were actually halfway through the second quarter. I was thinking, oh, we should be able to handle this. We got this game. and then halfway through the third quarter, I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
But anyways, guys, hey, who's got it better than us?
A lot of people.
San
A lot
Diego.
of people.
The Texans specifically, they got it better because
especially
they're still alive.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. All right, one more before we read some text and hear from Dan Scott. Brandon on this Overreaction Monday. What is your overreaction, Brandon? What's up, man?
All right, so I want to start off by saying this is not my overreaction. I just keep hearing it and seeing it. Jordan Love not performing up to the expectations of a $55 million quarterback year. Well, look, he's got what is in all reality a practice squad.
Correct.
Wide receiver 1 playing against the Eagles.
Yep. And Reed, you're right. He had no receivers yesterday, so I don't blame that yesterday on him.
I keep seeing that everywhere, and that is the biggest overreaction I've ever seen in my life.
That people are blaming it on Love?
Yes.
Oh, no, not at all. No, he had nobody. And then his other receiver got hurt during the game. It's like top 3 or 4 guys were out.
Jaden Reed went out, Romeo Dobbs went out, and I think 1 or 2 linemen went out.
Yeah, and Romeo Dobbs is, he's not the one. And then that hit yesterday on the with his head. Hopefully he's okay. But no, I agree. Jordan Love's fantastic, but my gosh, they have had the worst luck at receiver.
Cowboys play this weekend, right? What time?
Oh, they play they're at 4:30 a.m. on MySpace Saturday morning. If you want to, I'm hanging up on it. Thanks, Brandon.
All right, buddy.
Taking a shot at my Cowboys. How dare them? All right, let's see. Texter says that's a Madcraft promo for sure. I'm dying, y'all. Sadcraft, that is good. Sadcraft. Let's see. Michael in Simpsonville. Overreaction. The Ohio State is not going to destroy Notre Dame because of Friday night. Like I mentioned earlier, Will was 0-3 against Texas and played hesitantly. Hopefully the Oregon game Will shows up. I don't know. I don't know that I'm
saying that Will Howard played hesitant against Texas. Is that what Michael and Simpson's? Well, I mean, he did throw for what, like 250? 260 in that game. I don't know that would call that hesitant.
Tolo Steve says, where's the SEC again for the second year in a row? No SEC football team in the national championship. Go Buckeye. We're getting an Ohio State takeover right now. It looks like, Diesel, from our Ohio State fans.
They start coming out from behind all of those orange and white traffic cones. As soon as the Buckeyes make a deep run, they jump out. I think they hide them under those orange and white traffic cones, which is the state bird of the state of Ohio, by the way.
The state bird is the traffic cone. Spartanburg J. Let's see. A long text here. Overreaction Monday. OSU versus Notre Dame for the Natty makes me sick. Physically nauseous, headache, fever, upsets my aura. My attitude sucks. Just everything is wrong with the universe. Spartanburg J not happy with Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Might I suggest Pepto-Bismol?
I like it, man. I like it's different. It's not the SEC. I like that we have a little bit of a different flavor for the national championship game. Diesel, let's go to the Well in downtown Greenville and visit with our friend Dan Scott, who you'll hear in about an hour and a half right here on the Fan Upstate with the call for Wofford Furman. Let's put Dan Scott on the let's put him on the spot here. Dan, do you have an overreaction on this Overreaction Monday? Oh, my mistake.
So we're just blowing out the whole home team, away team nomenclature.
Yep. You're right.
That's fair.
That's fair enough. You got us there.
That's fair.
Okay. Yep. You're kidding.
Wow.
You want to give up football because Miami and your Chargers disappointed you. Tom Van Hoy. Tom on the call with you tonight, Dan? Smart guy. Smart guy.
Dan, can you give us any kind of quick preview on this Furman-Wofford matchup tonight? Furman, obviously, coming out of the gates extremely hot. Great start to the season, 14-2. It feels obviously like this team has a chance to be real special.
Wow. Dan, let's talk about that Furman-Wofford. I got it right that time. That rivalry between the two schools that we all love to cover and talk about. You know, I grew up going to Wofford games, living in Spartanburg and being from there. One thing that I've struggled to do since Mike Young left Wofford is identify Wofford basketball, put an identity on what they are. You see them a lot more, obviously, in the two matchups, and you hear Coach Ritchie talk about them, and you'll see them tonight. How would you say, since Mike Young has left Wofford, or what would you say their identity has been? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dan Scott on the call later on this evening in just about an hour and 10 minutes time. Dan, we're excited to hear the game, and go Dens.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
Man, that's
Dan, what is your secret for keeping your vocal cords so silky smooth? I mean, calling that many games in that short a period of time has got to be tough on the pipes.
Dan, tell Tom we said hello, and best of luck to you two tonight, and best of luck to the Dens. Dan Scott, it's going to be a fun one tonight, DJ.
It will. Wofford's off to a good start in conference. Obviously they've only played the one game, so they're 1-0, sitting at second place in the conference, tied with Mercer there. And Furman's got a little work to do. They got off to an 0-1 start in conference, but I feel like tonight's going to be the night, Cole, where they bring that even. When we come back, let's get into our early initial thoughts on Ohio State Notre Dame. I know we're going to spend the majority of the week breaking this game down from various perspectives. Our first thoughts on it next, right here on the Fan Upstate. Cole, I am a sucker for alliteration.
Okay.
I love the way it sounds. Super Bowl Sunday. That's alliteration. Why not have
Wire
National
to wire.
Title Tuesday and host the national championship game on a Tuesday? Title Tuesday. I like it. I like it. I want to know what Harold in Greenville thinks about it, because Harold is one of the smartest people that calls into this show.
He is.
And if he likes it, it's clearly a good idea. Harold, what's on your mind?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I like the obliteration. I just want to give Cole props. Listen, he might not be good on the upset picks, but he's hit that national championship team all year. It's going to be Ohio State.
I appreciate it. Hopefully I'm right.
Listen, Notre Dame's luck's been run out. I mean, it took luck on the first couple of games, and
was it luck that the Ohio State player got into the backfield and blew up Quinn Ewers? I mean, come on, you got to give the other team a little credit too, Harold.
Oh, I'm giving them credit. Listen, I'm giving them credit. But, I mean, I don't think – who's the quarterback? Well, he's not going to throw no interception down there at the end of the game. They're going for the winning drive themselves.
Look, I think Notre Dame – Harold, I think Notre Dame's defense will keep them in the game, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But I do believe at some point, Harold, I think that Ohio State's going to have the offense to go make the plays and finish the drives when needed. And I think their offense – and they didn't – here's what's crazy. They won and scored, 20-something points and beat Texas, but Jeremiah Smith was a non-factor. I think they have, at the end of the day, too many weapons.
Yeah, well, listen, I only seen them play. I've seen them all year because that's the only station I got was Fox, and they played at 12 o'clock. I've seen them the whole season, but if they play like they get against Tennessee, there ain't no way Notre Dame's going to beat Ohio State. I think they're going to win by a couple of scores. Ooh. That's my prediction. So we'll see.
I like it. Interesting. Thanks for the call, Harold. As always.
We got a matchup here of, two top 10 defenses. Ohio State, number one defense in the country right now, overall, total defense. And Notre Dame is number 9 in the country. Very, very good defenses going head-to-head here. The question is, which quarterback do you trust right now? Which set of wide receivers and tight ends and running backs do you trust the most right now?
It's a good question, and I do think I like Will Howard a little bit better than I like Riley Leonard. However, I will tell you, I'm just saying what if on Monday night, 1 week from today, Diesel, you and I we'll talk about the game all week this week because we're off Monday, right? We are
Correct.
Off Monday.
We are off.
MLK Day, inauguration, national championship. We talk a lot about the quarterbacks. But what if I told you that the question we needed to ask was, which defense do we trust more? I think Ohio State's defense has been underrated all season long. You say, well, Cole, how are they underrated if they're number one in the country? I think that Ohio State gets talked about a lot because of the stars that they have, especially in the insanely talented freshman in Jeremiah Smith. I think Ohio State's defense, this sounds crazy to go back 2 to 3 years ago and think about the prolific Ohio State offenses that they've had, even running backs with Zeke Elliott, Diesel. I think the Ohio State defense will be the reason Ohio State wins the national championship. I think their defense will carry the team, and Will Howard, just like he did against Texas, will need to do just enough. Game managers still win a lot of football games, Diesel.
Yeah, that's true. But Will Howard has shown the ability to get out and run.
Yes.
He can break free. He has a hard time running, especially when there's a blade of grass in his way.
Turf monster.
And it trips him up and gets him sometimes. Yeah. But you know why I like Ohio State so much in this game is that Ohio State has not only the best defense in the country, but they have the third best run defense in the country. And if they're going to force Riley Leonard to throw the ball on them to win, that's when it's going to get a little bit iffy for Notre Dame.
We talked about the Penn State-Notre Dame game. Remember how Drew Aller was just not really good in our mind, and Riley Leonard, he wasn't impressive, but he did enough, right? 200, 250 yards, whatever it was, 1 or 2 touchdowns. I think that both quarterbacks are in a very similar situation with this matchup, that when you talk about winning the national championship. Yes, quarterback play matters, Diesel. Quarterback play matters. However, which quarterback on Monday night, if you told me the quarterback, the team that wins, Diesel, their defense plays well, but their quarterback does what? The quarterback that limits the turnovers and takes care of the football, I think that team wins. And Will Howard has done a good job of that. I'm not saying Riley Leonard's a turnover machine, but I do trust if you wanted to make a prop bet, I would say that 1 week away, I think Riley Leonard will throw you one. I think you can count on Ohio State getting one interception on Monday night. I just think that taking care of the football when you have a defense as good as Ohio State does, yeah, all those weapons, they're great, they're flashy, whatever, but if you can take care of the football and run the ball and rely on that defense, I think Ohio State wins. Am I saying Notre Dame has no shot? No, but I just think Notre Dame, if they take care of business and take care of the ball, I think they'll win.
Well, also, you know how we spent the entire playoffs as we were teasing out what was going to happen in the Texas games. We talked about Texas having the best pass defense in the country. Yeah. By virtue of having played Ohio State, they're not the best pass defense in the country anymore. They've dropped all the way to number 7.
Wow. And
Ohio State now has the best defense against the pass as far as passing yards allowed at just 161 yards a game. And they're giving up less than 100 yards a game on the ground in rush defense. This Ohio State team is so complete. It's going to be hard for Notre Dame to get it done. However, we saw Notre Dame go down 10 points to Penn State.
That's right.
In their game, and they found a way to fight and claw back. And any team that can fight back through adverse situations like that, I never discount and say that they're out of it, right? They always have a chance to come back and win this football game. So, I mean, if I had to do an early thought on this game, I would say Ohio State probably wins by 10.
Okay. Early thought, 1 week out.
Early thought.
I don't hate that. I'll tell you this. There's so many matchups within the game, this one game, that I'm looking forward to. However, I think the coaching matchup, Diesel, with Freeman versus Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, I think that's going to be fascinating. Sign me up. Get the popcorn ready. I think these are two well-coached teams, man. We talk a lot about talent and the Jimmies and Joes, and I know you got to have the dudes out there. There's no doubt. But these two teams, man, they're well-coached. And how much credit does Marcus Freeman deserve for what he's done at Notre Dame? I just, the Northern Illinois loss, you and I were together when that happened. We were at Clemson covering a game, and at that time, Diesel, I think it was the second week of the year, the mantra, the narrative around Notre Dame was, the typical Notre Dame, right? Another disappointing season. I mean, just think about from that point to now, I just give Marcus Freeman so much credit. I think that guy, I've heard a lot of rumors about him going to the Bears or going to the NFL. I'd forget all that, man.
No, I don't think his personality fits with the NFL at
all.
Don't
go to the NFL. You have it made. We talk about Dabo Swinney, Diesel having it made at Clemson. How about Marcus Freeman having it absolutely made at Notre Dame? I mean, why would you leave Notre Dame
right
to go to the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, you are at probably the most storied program in all of non-professional sports, right? I mean, I know that there are programs who have more national titles recently in the SEC and huge, bigger football stadiums and all that.
Yeah.
But none of them have the aura of Notre Dame.
They don't have the history, to your point, the tradition. I think it's going to be a really good game.
But the thing is, Cole, I don't think either one of us would be shocked, considering their history, if either one of these teams made a major coaching blunder in the middle of the game that cost them. Ryan Day, he can't win. He can't beat Michigan. He can't beat, he can't win the national championship game. He's made his mistakes. Marcus Freeman has had some head scratchers as well. I just think Marcus Freeman is so focused. He's not going to allow himself to make a mistake.
No, he looks like he is ready for the moment, right? He looks like he's ready for the national championship. And that's kind of what I do think. If you're an Ohio State fan, I think that's what scares you. Like, Marcus Freeman looks like he's ready.
Plus, Ohio State is his alma mater. He's not going to be intimidated. He knows that program well.
Leprechaun Alignment on the text line 844 fan phone says, well, Notre Dame's defense is no slouch. They're not. They're a good defensive unit. They really are. And that's why I think this game could be low scoring. And again, Leprechaun Alignment, that's why I think it really will come down to the turnover margin. Like in a low scoring game with two good defenses, you can have the playmakers, but if I can have the team that makes less mistakes, I'll take that. Yeah. I'm telling you, over the Jeremiah Smiths, it's going to be. I cannot wait.
I could even see this being a field position type game. If you can't move the ball on these two teams, if you can force them to be one dimensional and you can keep them outside of the 50, then you're talking about punting guys down inside the 10-yard line over and over and over again. And maybe it's the first 1 to 14 points wins the game.
We were talking about earlier the SEC not being in it. I'll tell you this. I could be in a lone boat here, Diesel, by myself, but I may not be. I'll tell you, a week away from this game, Notre Dame, Ohio State, I know we had a texter a minute ago say, no, this game makes them sick. I think I'm looking more forward to this national championship game than I have in several years. Like, obviously, with Clemson in it, that means something because, it's a team that I've pulled for and it's an in-state team. But, man, the SEC kind of wears you down. It's just the same old, same old.
So you're saying new faces in there is refreshing.
I think so.
Fan bases from all over the country.
I'm excited.
Refreshing. I mean, could you imagine if Arizona State had made it here and how much fun the Sun Devil fan base would be in the national title game? I love having this playoff spread out to a lot of different programs that wouldn't normally be in the playoff.
Michael in Simpsonville says Chip Kelly has been hit or miss sometimes. Hopefully it's a hit. Marcus Freeman could come up with something to stiffen us. And Michael, I agree with you. Maybe he could. If there's a coach out there that could, I think it could be him. Buckeye Mike says Marcus Freeman looks like Tressel on the sidelines. JT and Greer, I hope Notre Dame wins 3-0. I can't stand either team. John Dog, don't be an SEC hater, Cole. I'm not. Diesel will tell you all season long I defended the SEC. I did. I defended the SEC, especially when it came to them still being at the top of college football. But I'm just saying, I don't know. We've seen Georgia a lot lately. All of us are used to Alabama being right there.
Old hat.
It's just refreshing, to your point. I think that's a good word. Notre Dame, Ohio State, and look, Ohio State's been there, right? They have such storied success, and nobody's surprised that Ohio State's there with the talent they have on their roster. But, man, it's just something new. It's something different. I hope it's not a blowout. Again, my opinion may change 7 days from now, but I'm with you. My early lean 1 week away is that Ohio State, you said by 10. I don't think I'm far off. I think Ohio State wins. Maybe pull away in the fourth quarter, Diesel, to make it look, maybe 14, 17-point game, make it look a little bit more like a blowout. But I do think it's going to be competitive with the two coaches. You give them a week to prepare, just like a normal week, a little over a week rather. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Tolo Steve says, I think a lot of this game could be decided in the trenches. Notre Dame has 2 starting offensive linemen that are out, but Ohio State has a defensive end that's questionable. Texter says 2 of the most hated brands out there. It'll be just CTV, and we'll bring in viewers that hate the SEC too.
Why is Notre Dame a hated brand? I mean, everybody's been beating up on them in the playoffs.
I think it's just the conference thing. I think it's just I think that's the only beef people actually have.
How dare a program go out there and do its own thing and sign an extremely lucrative deal for themselves? That sounds like jealousy.
It is.
Shadow of Death Valley says that he pretty much walks into Death Valley anytime he's in town. He's never had an issue, even had people talk to him as he walked around and took pictures of the empty stadium. Strength coach Joey Batson took me to the trophy room underneath the stands back in the day. Well, that's the issue there. That's the crux of the matter there, Shadow of Death Valley. And I think he's on the rewind. He's on the rewind, so he's a little bit behind us.
But that's great. Good job finding that.
That is the issue. You're saying back in the day. We were talking about a YouTuber, a TikToker who walks into the stadium and just lets himself into as many places as he can possibly go. He's not necessarily just walking around on the field. We saw the video of him at Williams-Brice Stadium. He made it all the way up into the club level.
True.
And he's just pulling on open doors to see where he can get to.
He was up there hanging with the trophies.
And this is the –
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
What trophies?
Yeah, exactly. But, hey, it's scary what lapses in security there are these days and what somebody may intend to do in a stadium.
Diesel, let's dive back in. We have an audio blitz from the weekend coming up at 6 o'clock. For a new audience, let's dive back into Clemson in the very next segment. They made or are planning to make a hire in the near future. We'll talk about that next with Clemson and get your thoughts as well. can't say things right before we come back on that make me laugh. It's how when you say something, it makes me think of something else and somebody else, and then I start laughing, so then I get distracted. But yeah, it's all fair conversations. No. All fair conversations are pretty good. All fair conversations. My mind's just like so sporadic. It goes everywhere. Clemson, Diesel. We had Will Vandervoort on earlier today, and Will filled us in, and he does a fantastic job on the pending hire of Tom Allen. So this morning, ESPN and was it Pete Thamel? I think it was Pete Thamel broke the news that Clemson was working to hire Tom Allen as the defensive coordinator. And we know that Wes Goodwin was released or fired, if you will, a few weeks ago or a few days ago, Diesel. Tom Allen coming from Penn State, first year at Penn State in 2024. He had their defense 7th in total defense nationally. He was the head coach at Indiana. A really nice resume, a guy who's a little bit older, has a lot of experience. Our reaction, we've talked about it earlier, but revisiting now because obviously we have a new audience every 15 or so minutes. But Clemson working to hire Tom Allen. Your initial reaction?
I love it. I love anytime you can put a former head coach on your staff.
Sure.
That's a great wealth of knowledge that you can add. And, like I was saying earlier in the show, anytime you like Dabo knows that he can hand off a huge chunk of his responsibilities as far as managing the defense onto somebody who's got head coaching experience, it allows him more time to create. It allows him more time to oversee. So all he's doing now is, let me rephrase that, not all he's doing. What he's doing now is staffing up with a bunch of dudes who know how to run their element of the game to the best of their ability. They were clearly, they clearly rose through the ranks and were hired for their prowess at doing something. And now Dabo gets to say, all right, well, I like what you're doing here. Here's how we can tweak it. Here's how we can make it interesting. Here's how we can make it more creative.
CEO.
Yeah, he gets to be a CEO type of guy. Instead of having to run everything, what's that old saying? Don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing.
That's right.
And when you're spread across so many different facets of running a program, you can't give everything 100% attention.
I believe, Diesel, that number one, this was a really good hire. Number two, and most importantly, I believe that this was an urgency hire.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that Dabo Swinney saw the talent that he has, especially on the offensive side of the football, and said, hey, I blew my chance in 2024 to compete for a national championship. We had the offense to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't have the defense. I think it's an urgency hire because he also knows that the program took a step back defensively, and ultimately the buck stops with him, right? So I think that you see this hire. It's a good hire, but I think it shows that Dabo recognizes where the program needs to go, Diesel.
Well, he also knows, Cole, that they've got one more year with Cade Klubnik, and that's it. I mean,
gotta win now.
You can feel good about Christopher Vezina going into the 2026 season, but there's no guarantee that that number one, all those great wide receivers that you've got on your roster, that those guys will stick around, and that there's no guarantee that Christopher Vezina is going to stack up and be the same type of quarterback that Cade Klubnik was. So, you got to make hay while the sun is shining, and the sun is shining on them right now. They've got a great offensive scheme. They've got a great offensive coordinator. People are going to be coming after Garrett Riley big time next year. I'm surprised there weren't already some people, making inquiries about him. But, if this offense ends up being really good again this year, Garrett Riley might be gone. So this may be your chance to have both of them on staff at the same time.
It very well could be. I think it's a good hire for Clemson, and time will tell, right? Time will tell.
Time will tell. When we come back, Cole, a weekend audio blitz, a lot of stuff going on in the sports world. We're going to let you hear it directly from the horse's mouth. That's coming up next. Just 30 minutes away from tip-off of Furman versus Wofford at Bon Square Wellness Arena. Dan Scott going to have the call of that game starting again here at 6:30. That's a makeup from a game that should have been played on Saturday, but the non-event weather event that we had, just terrible road conditions.
Good job, weatherman.
Slipping and sliding. I still haven't taken my Jeep out of four-wheel drive. Weather-wise, just so
Might
bad.
well stay here tonight.
Yeah, it's good that we were able to keep these guys safe. But
they missed so bad on that, by the way. Like, there was one weatherman, and I'm not going to say his name. He put a post, you can guess. He put a post out there explaining and backtracking on why he missed as bad as he did.
Well, look, there's all kinds of atmospheric conditions that should lead to certain weather outcomes that for whatever reason just don't pan out. And so predicting the weather is like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. Good luck. Sometimes they say it's going to be, a half an inch and it ends up being a 10-inch snowstorm. Yeah. Sometimes they say it's going to be a 6-inch snowstorm and we get, next to nothing and some freezing rain. But, hey, there's a little bit of ice on the roads afterwards. So, I guess with anything, Cole, you have to go to the extreme to let people know that something's coming for them to pay any attention to it whatsoever.
Oh, they paid attention. All right.
Yes, they did. I still don't have any eggs in the refrigerator because everybody decided to go buy them all.
Yep.
And we're also in an egg shortage and they can't get replenished. So it is what it is. Scotty from BMW says, "Hola, mi amigos. How is Tolo Nation doing today?"
What's up, Scotty?
We're doing great, Scotty.
I like that Tolo Nation.
I need to keep picking Scotty's brain because he told me to sign up for something on the Underdog app, and I haven't won anything from it. I don't know if I'm doing it right.
You need help with that.
Let's jump in. Yeah, with a lot of things. Cool. Let's jump into our audio blitz. A lot happened this weekend. I will let you take it from here.
So, Diesel, I want to play this first clip. I've got to get your reaction to this. I sometimes agree with Dan Orlovsky on ESPN. Sometimes I don't. But I think I'm coming around to this take. I'm not going to spill the beans. I want to let you hear it first. But this was a strong take by Dano on ESPN yesterday or Friday.
Honestly, my big takeaway is this. Like, the Chiefs are the most disrespected dynasty, at least of my lifetime. They are.
Dan, now
we talk about the
you
Chiefs.
Literally just made up that narrative in your head.
Okay, give me a dynasty that has been more disrespected in our lifetime. I'm not saying ever.
How have they been disrespected? How did you tell me that?
Yeah, how?
Well, okay,
how have they been disrespected?
So this year, what's the narrative around the Kansas City Chiefs this year? Mind you, they were 15-2, really 15-1, and they got dealt with an unbelievable injury rush.
Which is what we pointed out.
No. What's been the narrative around the Chiefs
They had
this
a
year?
lot of close wins. We were concerned about that.
But
because of the close,
are they lucky or are they good?
No, they're good. We always say they're always closing games.
But everyone has said, like, they're lucky. And then go back to last year.
No, we say they get calls.
Which is not true.
Well, that's
Diesel, are the Chiefs the most disrespected dynasty in our lifetime?
No.
No.
I
couldn't get you on that.
What is Dan Orlovsky smoking over there? I mean, come on, man. There's like there's 1,000,001 Chris Collinsworth memes that I've seen about Chris Collinsworth making games and making narratives about the Chiefs that are in no way, shape, or form about the Chiefs. They have Hallmark movies being made about them. They have it's crazy how much run the Kansas City Chiefs get. And Dan Orlovsky, God, he's so wrong.
So I was trying to come around to it. I really was. I was trying to come around to it and think, okay, maybe there's something there. They do have a lot of haters. I'll say that. They have a lot of people who don't like them. But I get it. Like, I get it. Anybody that's great does, right? Anybody that it's really good, any dynasty, any successful. I mean, it's been that way with Tom Brady, whoever it's been. Texter says, fan, which you don't have to do, by the way, anymore, Texter, but if you want to keep doing it, you can. But now that we have the new text line, you don't have to put fan in front of your text. Texter from the 443 says, Furman and Wofford face off tonight for their 156th meeting. Furman leads the all-time series 92-63. Hashtag Go Dens. Both teams are battling to become 3-1 in conference. So a little Furman love on this Monday evening. So that was Dano on the first piece of audio. Diesel, how about Rick Barnes
What has to be what kind of substance has to be in Dan Orlovsky's body for him to buy into that hype?
Is hot take guy. Maybe so, right? How about this audio from Rick Barnes, college basketball world? Rick Barnes not holding back at all after a game with his Volunteers the other, I believe this was Saturday.
First play of the second half because he didn't shoot the ball. That play was designed for that shot. And I told him, I said, you're not going to do what you're getting paid to do. You sit over here because he is getting paid to do that.
So Rick Barnes benching a player, Diesel, because he didn't do what he was asked to do.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting paid to do. And we have some audio related to this tomorrow coming up on the show. If now in the college world, if you don't do your job, pay's reduced or you're benched, one of the two. I have no issue with what Rick Barnes said.
None. These guys have to understand that there are consequences to their actions, and the consequences used to be we're going to bench you and you're not going to play. Now, the transfer portal rules being what they are mean that if I don't like being benched, I can just up and leave.
Sure.
Basically, anytime I want to. I'm just going to shut down. I'm not going to be a part of this team anymore, and I'm going to transfer somewhere else, and they're going to pay me a lot of money there as well. Now they actually have the ability to affect these guys' paychecks. The question becomes, at what point is it penal enough for them to say, okay, I don't want to lose this amount of money, and so I'm going to make sure I do the right things.
Diesel, the Colts had their end-of-year presser on Friday. As you know, the Colts were not in the playoffs. The GM for the Indianapolis Colts, not happy. He says they are not close.
Right now, we're not close. I'm going to make this really clear. We are like close as losing on the last play of the Super Bowl. That's close. Going 8-9, that's not close. No. I'm not saying we won't be closer when we get to the start of the season, but right now, sitting here today, we're an 8-9 football team. We got to own that, and we are not good enough. We're not. And we've got to be able to address and identify the right avenues to acquire the right players that can move the needle. And I have not done that in the last 4 years.
I'm now a fan of Chris Ballard, the GM for the Colts.
I had a problem with that until the very last sentence where he said, I have not done a good enough job of that, because there was a lot of we. And I get it. I get it that football is the ultimate team game and it takes everybody across the entire organization to be successful. However, it kind of takes some of the pressure off of himself by saying we're not doing the things that we need to do. Well, what do you mean we? Are you talking about the coach? Are you talking about the quarterback? Are you talking about position coaches? Who exactly are you talking about? Until he gets to the very end and says, I have not done a good enough job.
He did. You're right. He did. He owned up to it.
He should have said it more, though.
He's not happy. We have not done a good enough job. Regardless, they're not close. I like that. I like the honesty. Diesel, were you a fan of the movie Cars?
Never saw it.
What?
Never saw it.
Wow. That blows my mind, you being a movie guy.
Yeah.
Lightning McQueen.
It's a kids movie.
I know, but it's a great kids movie. It's a great kids movie. Lamar Jackson, he's a fan of Cars. Do you know that?
When I'm gonna give Cars. You watch the movie Cars? You're a little bit too old to watch Cars, but anyway, for kids,
a dude who gets hit in the head for a living likes cartoons. Shocker.
That's all I'm saying. But when Lightning McQueen just flying, flashing past, and then it's like, that's how Derek looked. He was running past, and all those guys it looked like a movie, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So he compares Derrick Henry to Lightning McQueen on Cars. I love Lamar Jackson's so fun, man. He's great interview.
You say fun, I say an early onset signs of CTE. I mean, come on. You're a grown-ass man, and you put things in terms of cartoons?
Yes. It's a great kids movie, man. Cars is a classic. I can't believe you haven't seen Cars. I mean, come on, Diesel. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it on the show. 3 hours of nothing but Cars. How about Cam Newton? We talked about this earlier.
This guy.
I know. I'm sorry, but it's related to Notre Dame. Okay, Notre Dame joining a conference. Cam Newton not happy with the current state of the Irish. Do you agree?
I'm ready for Notre Dame to play in a conference. it's almost like that person that's sitting in the playground and say, no, y'all hash it out. And when y'all hash it out, y'all gonna knock each other off, and then I'm gonna step in the forefront. They're 7-0 versus ranked opponents. Now, that could be a very subjective and real kind of skewed kind of statistic. Texas A&M, okay. Louisville, Navy, where we at? Indiana, Army, Georgia without Carson Beck, and then also Penn State. I'm not trying to rain on their parade because their defense is legit.
Yeah.
Agree with Cam?
That they need to be in a conference?
Yeah. I mean, he compared it to two kids, beating up on each other, and then you getting the winner.
I mean, I think Notre Dame plays a decent enough regular season schedule.
If you compare it to the ACC.
Yeah. Let's see. College football strength of schedule. Where does Notre Dame fall in the strength of schedule?
I'd say, let me guess. I'm going to say they are not in the top 25.
No.
They are in the top 50.
Just outside of it.
Oh, are they?
57.
Okay.
So that puts them on par. Let's just go through the top, number 50 through 60, okay?
Yeah.
Pitt, Iowa, Wake Forest, Boston College, Clemson, Iowa State, NC State, Notre Dame is at 57, BYU is 58, Miami is 59.
Well, exactly. You just proved my point. It sounded like a lot of ACC schools from what you just said, right?
Yeah, so I mean, they essentially play an ACC strength of schedule over the course of the regular season.
That's right.
So, but I mean, how you look against your strength of schedule, I think has to matter. You can't just look at strength of schedule because if you play a tougher schedule, let's say you played the 37th strength of schedule, but you win every game by a point. Okay, you've won games by a point. You're 12-0, 13-0 at that point. But let's say you play the 57th strength of schedule and you blow out everyone by 30. Like, what's more impressive here?
Yeah.
1-point wins or 30-point wins?
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, I think that's the biggest complaint, the biggest hiccup with people, right? They want to see them join a conference. Would the results be any different? Maybe not.
I heard, I don't remember who it was, some pundit was talking about, it might have even been Cam Newton, about the ability for a team to get a sense of who you are over time by playing in a conference. You face a program year in and year out. You kind of know how to defend them over time. Maybe. I don't know. It's not like Notre Dame is running something really exotic that nobody else out there. It's not like they're running the triple option.
Right.
And it's the only TO that most teams see every year. I don't know. I like the uniqueness of Notre Dame not being in a conference. Would I like to see them join one because that would strengthen that conference? Sure.
I think there's viable sides on both sides of it.
And at this point, Notre Dame is leaving money on the table by not joining the Big Ten. They value their independence and their ability to schedule who they want more than an additional $15 million a year from what they're getting from NBC versus what Big Ten schools are getting from their deal.
All right, here is Bo Nix. Diesel, obviously not the way they wanted their playoff game against the Bills to go. Here's what Bo Nix said looking back on his rookie season.
You play this game to reach the highest level. And so I don't want to be complacent. I don't want to ever, be just comfortable and satisfied and happy with, just something that looks good on the outside. You play this game to win and everybody's working for a Super Bowl. And, we owe that to ourselves because of the time we put into it. And unfortunately, only one team can do that at the end of the year. So 31 teams are going home, disappointed. But it's a lot to grow from, a lot to build from. I'm excited where we are. Like I said, I'm excited to be here at this time because there's, our trajectory is going up. I'm excited for a lot of things. We have out in front of us a lot to look forward to, which I'm pumped about.
Stock up, stock down on Bo Nix.
Up, way up.
Yeah.
I mean, he took a roster that was awful a year ago, 2 years ago, and got them into the playoffs. I mean, they got blown out in the playoffs, but they also played a really good team.
I like him a lot, man. I hope he and Sean Payton both, which good quarterback, good coach combinations, a lot of times do work out. I think it will work out. We'll see. It's the National Football League. Like he said, only one team at the end of the day gets the ultimate goal. That's what they all work towards. But hard to pull against the guy. I like him. Here is Rex Ryan, who I don't know if you know this or not, but has been campaigning very hard, Diesel, to leave his seat on ESPN's desk to be the next Jets coach. He said, look, he's the right fit for the guy. He's interviewed with the New York Jets. Here was his reaction to Mike Vrabel getting the job as the next head coach of the Patriots.
What's your reaction?
I mean, hopefully I get to kick this guy's ass twice a year. I don't know what. Just kidding.
Them Jets, huh?
I'm just kidding, buddy.
Maybe your team.
Yeah, not my team, yes, but not me personally.
Confident or cocky? I think it's confident.
It's confident. I love it. And
Yeah,
he also knows, Cole, that he is in all likelihood going to have a top 10 pick, or he's going to have the number 7 pick if he gets the New York Jets job, which means he could be drafting any quarterback he wants next year. I mean, the Cam Ward is off the table. Shedeur is going to be off the table, but then you're going to have some really good quarterbacks to choose from. Maybe he loves Quinn Ewers, and he says at 7, I think Quinn's going to be there, and I want to be in New York so that I can be in the Quinn Ewers business.
Sure. You know what? One thing I think we have time for one, maybe 2 more, Diesel. One thing I took away from yesterday's Wild Card Sunday, watching the Bills-Broncos game, I could not recall a time watching an NFL game I've seen a referee come to a bench and talk to a player one-on-one. I'd never seen that before.
I haven't either.
It happened yesterday with a white hat and Josh Allen. So it was first half of the game. There was a obvious pass interference call that was not called. I mean, the guy got mauled, Diesel, just absolutely mauled. Well, a few minutes later, they were going to a TV timeout, and the TV crew, and I believe it was Romo and Nance, show the white hat on the bench talking to Josh Allen.
Oof.
And it was like, at the time, like, is he apologizing? He was patting his chest, and I'm like, oh my God, did they just show him saying that we blew this? And ultimately, the Bills won big, so it didn't matter. But here, of course, Josh Allen was asked about it post-game on what the referee said.
When the ref came over to talk to you, like all the way to the bench, what was he saying? What was going on?
Was that after I wasn't happy with what was going on, and I was yelling a little bit, and he just said, don't be yelling. So, my bad. Sorry to Bill. Huh?
Did he apologize?
I won't say anything about that.
You believe that? You believe that?
No,
don't
I don't.
Be yelling.
I don't believe that at all.
Don't be yelling. Everybody yells.
Yeah. He clearly went over there to say, it's on me.
I mean, he was patting his chest.
Unless Josh Allen's over there calling something specific like, hey, Jim Stevenson, referee, the fix is in, you're in on it, and I know it. Then he's got to come over and be like, sorry, dude, cut that out.
Cut it out.
Don't do that. Don't
no
go there.
more.
Again, we are now just about 12 minutes away from Furman versus Wofford. We'll close the show out with our Daily Wires next on the Fan Upstate. 30 minutes from tip-off, Furman Wofford at Bon Score Wellness Arena, downtown Greenville. Dan Scott going to have you on the pregame call here in just about 3.5 minutes, Cole. There's a couple of daily wires we didn't get to earlier.
Buzz.
This is more buzz happening around the sports world. Tahina Paopao and Chloe Kitts each scored 11 points as number 2 South Carolina rolled number 5 Texas 67-50 for its 11th straight win that came in yesterday in front of a sold-out crowd of 18,000 strong at Colonial Life Arena. Ashlyn Watkins being out is not slowing this South Carolina team down.
Well, she's good. Ultimately, though, they're good enough, they're deep enough that it shouldn't slow them down in a major way because they still have 5 stars.
Speaking of South Carolina, USC will hold the Ray Tanner Field at Founders Park dedication ceremony on Saturday, February 15th. The ceremony will take place on the field prior to first pitch of the Gamecocks game against Sacred Heart, which starts at 2 p.m.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think that's their first game of the season.
Yes. The first 2,500 fans in attendance will receive a commemorative Ray Tanner trading card.
That's awesome. That is really, really cool.
That's going to be fun.
Open the season, kind of dedicate it to him. I mean, him moving up a different position. That's really cool.
And one more Gamecock Daily Wire for you. This one's not good. South Carolina lost to Auburn over the weekend, 66-63. Close game against a top 5 opponent. You should be able to win a couple of these games, though. That's now 2 in a row. They've lost the teams from the state of Alabama.
I'll tell you what, I watched this game, and South Carolina played really well. I mean, I think it was their best game of the season. Yeah. And I know people, they'll see the score and the outcomes. Oh, they lost the game. But I'm telling you, it was their best game of the season. They were right there. Their starters gave them production. Their bench gave them production. Auburn is number 2 for a reason. They're a really good basketball team. South Carolina's they're getting better. They're getting better. Maybe they can turn it around here soon.
They're going to have to find a way to get a couple of wins and go on a streak.
They are.
Or they could they risk falling way, way back. Also, this weekend, Clemson defeated Florida State 77-57, handling business there. Florida State, not a bad team, but they're certainly not Florida State basketball of old.
No.
And finally, Cole, Mario Cristobal calls the, quote, false narrative that Cam Ward quit on Miami in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Bull bleep. Says it's not true. He didn't quit on us.
You know what? I don't know how you describe it, what adjective you want to use. He quit.
He quit.
What do you mean he did? What?
He chose not to play in the second half of a close football game that if he plays, you probably win that game going away.
He quit.
Like if you want to get to the point where you're into the fourth quarter and you're up 2 touchdowns and you want to take the last drive or 2 off, that's fine.
Sure.
If you want to sort of hand it off to the other guy, sure. That makes sense, but not playing the second half, that's just bad.
Furman Wofford tonight, Diesel. Who you got?
I got Furman.
Furman's going to win.
Furman's going to win this game. Yeah.
Furman's had a great start of the season, man. And Ben, the producer for Furman basketball, he's in the studio, as you can see on the stream. Wofford, that they struggled a little bit out of the gate. They're playing better. I think that game tonight will be fun, Diesel, but I do think you're right. I think Furman gets the win. Dan said it. This could be a special season.
It could be. It could be. I mean, they're off to a really hot start. Maybe this is the year that they get a little love and potentially get an at-large spot in the SoCon.
Here we go. Furman basketball next on the Fan Upstate. You have to hit it twice, Ben?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. It's all yours, man.